Good morning, friends. Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I have a question. So I was only able to catch half of the Zoom meeting from yesterday. Is it I know that you guys reported, but is there any way that we can see the recording?
Yeah, they're always on the Keller Williams New England YouTube channel. I'll pop that in for you. Give me a minute to find my notes and I'll pop those in.
Okay.
And you can find it on the
Okay.
you can find it on our Ignite Facebook page.
Okay. That sounds good.
Let me pull that up. There we go. Whoops. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, everyone. How the heck are you?
Brian Armstrong
having
is
audio
in.
issues. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the operator failed for a second. Brooke, did I have you biting your nails, cussing my name for not being on 15 minutes early?
No, I got you. None of our other friends were, just so you know. They were all logging on. So it is 9:02 and they are late as well. So, but you know what? It's fine. It's true realtor fashion, right? Like they're already learning early that they're never on time. Can we stop that? Can we stop that?
So everybody out here, first and foremost, thank you very much for taking the time. I'm really, really excited to be here today. Brooks heard a little bit about this before. KW simply, matter of fact, has changed my life. I've taken a little quick about me. Been in the business 25, 30 years, started as a loan officer. The first 2 weeks, the interest rates went from 9.5% to 10%. Remember, they're what, 3 right now? People were freaking around the office. I had them explain it to me multiple times. And if I understood why they were freaking out, I wouldn't be here today. So ignorance is bliss, especially if you're new to this industry, because you don't know what can't be done. Led a 7-office C21 to 10 offices. Started buying apartment buildings with my first wave for Esther Soul. And then I partnered with Adam Hergenrother. I'm the second largest shareholder of KW Vermont. Second time I've been the TL, also thanks to KW and my first wife for Esther Soul. Run a real estate team that does about 120 transactions, a property management company that manages 120 units plus give or take some condos. Got my hands in a closet and storage company, and I'm starting a cannabis company with a couple other great individuals. What does all that have to do with what you're here today? It's because KW's taught me, first and foremost, the importance about culture and treating people well. And secondly, models and systems. And so I'm jabbering a mile a minute. Let me bring up my presentation.
Yeah, and let me give myself a quick intro for those of you who who are newer to the company while Brian gets ready. So that was Brian Armstrong, by the way, team leader, Burlington, Vermont. And what's really important is it doesn't matter what business you're in or even in life. The models that you learn through KW will help you everywhere. I've streamlined family routines, things I do in my own personal life, and it's made all the difference in the world. So I am Brooke Silva. I am your regional technology trainer. I see a few familiar faces in here, and it's been great if I'm able to have met you in the offices for any of our classes. I'm going to be popping in and out of Ignite. So if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. You have Rosie, and then Josh is going to be joining us in a little bit to help. Slideshow over to the right.
All right, thank you. I've been going since 5 a.m. Got it.
That's okay. Click not now, and then from beginning. Slideshow from beginning. All the way to the left. It's okay.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Brooke. You rock. Believe it or not, I do know how to sell real estate. I don't know how to run PowerPoints, though.
That's okay. And we're going to tell you guys this. We really appreciate you turning on your videos. I would never walk into an empty room and start teaching to no one. It feels the same way to us on Zoom. It is painful sometimes to look up and see a bunch of black boxes and just a name, right? I should have gone for that for Halloween this year. Is just a big black box. but please show us your faces. We don't care what you look like. Clear your space, clear your mind, and come on video and participate. This is for you guys. No two Ignite sessions are ever the same, no matter how many times we all teach them. Do you want to get into the regular view? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, no, I'm actually on my second monitor. I'm going to just bring down this second monitor, the screen, to make sure I'm sharing the right one.
Yeah.
All right. And I think we got this animation slideshow from beginning.
Yeah, hold on. Go set up slideshow. If you want to hide this, I'll show you what to do real quick.
Yeah, basically I'm getting Wymas is sharing it to my upper screen, but I can actually rock and roll through this.
Perfect. They've all got their stuff. So guys, in the chat, I'll post it one more time before I hop off. There's all the resources you can follow along with. The visuals are just that. There's nothing on there that is going to be mind-blowing. Everything you're going to learn today is from the man himself. So follow along in your book. Throw your digital hand up or your meaty hand up if you've got questions, and we'll be here for you, okay?
All right. So guys, first and foremost, please make this interactive. Interrupt anytime you have questions. Don't hesitate to call blank on something if you don't quite agree with it. Because my goal is to hopefully make it interactive and growth oriented. Now with humor, I'm going to actually start off with, question. What's the most powerful thing you can do to make sure you have a great lead gen session? This is the interactive. You got 2 or 3 people throw out some ideas.
Brian, go ahead. I saw you first, Mr. Steinmetz.
I was going to say mindset is really important.
Absolutely. So I don't want to spend too much time on another instructor's thunder, but one of the first thing I recommend that you guys do begins long before lead generation. Sit down, and if you're in a relationship, do this with your spouse with humor. If it looks different, you got a challenge there. But go through your future amazing, awesome self. Sorry, Brooke, I had to do this. Now, what I mean by that is write down, where do you want to be physically? Where do you want to be professionally? Where do you want to be financially? What do you want your spiritual relationship? I respect anybody's creed. I spell God as Mark Twain says, or Einstein says, Nature. And review that. Make sure you've got it written down in a way that just really, really jazzes you. I review mine 3 or 4 times a week. And there's a saying, I think, with Simon Sinek, if you have a powerful why, you can survive any how. Now, so what we're going to focus on today, and I think I'm still not sharing the darn right screen. Hang on a second.
No, that was perfect. You had it perfect. Go back to whatever you just did.
All right.
It was amazing. It was beautiful. You're beautiful.
All right. Sounds good.
There you are. Good.
So first and foremost, we're going to focus on is lead generate for buyers and sellers. And, when I was with another brand and they had a very talented CEO, probably one of the few that they had, I was a new sales manager, and I asked, what 3 things would you recommend to a new sales manager for one of your free franchises? And the person said, recruit, recruit, recruit. Now, we could switch that to sales in that what's one of the most important things you can do to have a vibrant and abundant career? Lead generate, lead generate, lead generate. Now, not all of us love it, but if we come to peace with the fact that we're in the lead generation business, I think we'll do a lot more. And I'll give you a quick example. I had one time had an agent partner of ours say, all my leads are fill in the blank, derogatory description of their attitudes. And I said, well, it sounds like you don't have enough leads and you got a lead generation issue. And they said, no, Brian, I got plenty of leads. They just happen to be all blank. We did that conversation again. And they said, what do you mean, Brian? And I said, if you had enough leads, you could be intelligently selectful of working with a kind, appreciative persons versus people who may be fill in the blank. So lead generations will solve all your problems. So we'll talk a little bit about lead generation models. We'll dive into lead generation tactics in sources. And I hope, and if I'm doing my job right, I'm going to give you some ideas that you don't hear every single day. I'll also pause, for a second. I am a firm believer, and this is if you listen to my diatribe about how the entities I'm involved in, I think in life there's a law of 3 to 5. We're trained at an early age in patterns of 3 to 5 in kindergarten and in school. The Marines reportedly were built on a model of 3. So I'm a proponent that you have 3 to 5 robust lead generation sources that you work on a regular basis, so that you always have plenty of business, regardless if the market's good, the market's bad. Never, ever, ever let the market determine your success. The other thing I'll encourage you guys to do, just like in your real estate business, create 3 to 5 streams of income in your life. Apartment buildings, profit share, stocks, real estate, whatever it might be. All right. So the big picture, and let me just move my Zoom screen. Thank you very much. Understanding the lead generation model provides a larger vision of interconnected tasks and habits and how they will help fund your big why. So I'll give you an example. My wife and I started a closet storage company 2 years ago. I'm working on this from the startup of everything we do is a weave that leads to our success or our lack thereof. Now, on the right-hand side, I know a ton of agents, and this side note, this could be applied whether you're an independent agent or you're on a team. So a lot of agents like to lead with marketing. Why do you think they lead with marketing?
More passive.
It's more passive. They don't have to lean into the pain of me calling Brooke, asking her for a cup of coffee and her hanging up on me. So great book to read. And I encourage you guys, I'll pause here. Do you know what your E to E ratio is? Does anybody know what an E to E ratio is? Entertainment to education. So with humor, are you going home all night and playing video games like I used to do? You going home night, watch the Beverly Hills, reruns, or are you picking up a book? Are you educating yourself on tactics? Make sure you have a healthy E to E ratio. In a phenomenal book, and I'll probably give you guys a half dozen books to listen to. Side note, if you're all showing properties rather than playing Pandora Black Keys, and I love the Black Keys and the Rolling Stones, what about putting in an Audible? Side note, I listen to my Audibles at 1.3 speed, 1.5. So if I'm talking too much, please tell me to slow down. But a great book to dive into is The Obstacle is the Way. And I'll repeat that. The Obstacle is the Way. And it just talks about how we build up all these nerves, these emotions around whatever that big obstacle is, picking up the phone, having that tough conversation. Yet, in reality, the obstacle tells us the path we must go, and that is right through the obstacle or a talented way around. This, so people go to marketing because they can throw an ad out, hopefully the phone rings. I firmly believe that you can get to a point where you can have a market-driven business, such as the team that I lead. We regularly have tons of repeat and referral business. We have great SEO. We're not perfect. We have our challenges, but we've been doing it for years. But to get that team up and going, my first wife, rest her soul, and certainly I did, had to do a lot of prospecting, phone calling, meeting people person to person, asking for the order. So again, the lead generation model, if you're prospecting and marketing, and I encourage you, lead your business with prospecting at least in the first 3 to 5 years till you get it really up and going. Side note, great book, great by choice, said success is like a 2,000-pound concrete flywheel. It's really easy to keep that 2,000-pound concrete flywheel spinning once you get it spinning. And that's the hard part. All right, so prospecting, marketing, we capture leads, information, and so forth. And then number 2, leads tracking and offering. One-way and offer-based touch programs. Again, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, 33 touch. Now it's coming out supposedly MREA 2, 36 touch. Anybody care to guess why they had to go up from a 33 to 36? We're bombarded with social media, emails, more and more than ever before. We have to stand out. So one is leads. We track those leads. We look at, our offering to them, our value proposition. And side note, I would even track how many appointments you set, but I'll get to that in a second.
Hey,
Number
Brian, can I interrupt you real
Please.
quick on the 2 and the 3 on the leads and the contacts? So this is
Please.
something I run into in almost every class with you guys, is that nobody knows the difference between a lead and a contact as it pertains to the MREA, especially if we come from a sales-driven world like I did. So guys, could you put your hand up, or actually just put in the chat real quick, what is a lead and what is a contact? And let's see where you guys are with thinking, because I just want to make sure, because how you define this is going to change how you do things in command. So go ahead and plop that into the chat real quick, and I'll give everybody a minute. Your chat's broken. There you go. Come on, more people. What's a lead?
Lead gives you future sales. Contact is a familiar person. A lead is someone who wants to work with you or is interested in real estate.
All right, I'm going to blow your mind. Are you ready for this?
Do it.
A lead is someone you haven't had a two-way conversation about real estate. So you had to have validated real estate to turn them to a contact. Aunt Lucy in your database is not a contact because you have not, one, gained permission to market or do business with her just because you know her. You have not validated that two-way. So a lead is a haven't met in the real estate world for us. So you're going to hear that term in the MREA. You have not validated two-way conversation. This is not you barfing real estate emails at them and thinking they know what you do and how you bring value. This is you have had a two-way conversation. You understand their needs and wants. How you speak to leads is going to be different than how you speak to contacts. So when putting people into command, you need to think about that. See how there are two separate pipelines here? Same thing. One way, offer-based programs, right? We're going to do touches that are trying to move them to two-way conversations. Then when you're in a contact mode, you're bringing more value. You're strengthening the relationships because it's not all about buying and selling. It could be referring or it could be career changing for them. So just keep that in mind. And I'm sorry to derail you real quick, Brian. I just want to make sure everybody
is good. This is good. I'll even derail us a little bit further. Everybody do yourself a favor. Write down the letter C, then the equal sign, R. The conversation is the relationship. Another great book, Dr. Suzanne Scott, Fierce Conversations. Please help us help you. Your family deserves the very best. Please don't be that agent that never shows up to script practice and you choose to practice on your clients and on your leads. So I'm telling you, it seems archaic, but great script practices focus on models and systems, not just reading the scripts out loud. They also, I'll give you an example. We have a rock star on the real estate team. When I started script practicing her, it was like getting pulled over. Have you been pre-approved? How long have you been looking for a house? Did you want 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, or 4? I felt like, there's blue lights behind me. I drive fast, so that happens occasionally. Versus, hey, tell me about the, when you think of the next great house, Brooke, what are the core, the 4 key factors in the next great place you want to call home? Oh, what about your bedroom? 3 bedrooms is important to you. What about that large bedroom? Now, by chance, are you paying cash or will you be using a lender? Making it, and that was a little over caffeinated, but just making it a smooth conversation as opposed to an interrogation.
Yeah.
Can't stress enough. You guys, and I see a difference in new agents practicing and connecting. All right. So we went through the lead generation model partially. So after contacts, which we have two-way, conversations, then we got to actually cultivate them. Interactive based touch programs. Now, the one thing that terrified me about seeing Brooke on this morning, and I'll be very, very candid with you. I'm going to be authentic with you guys. I rarely ever touch command. Now I'm a TL, I run a team, all that stuff. Do not replicate my mistakes for 2 reasons. Command came about when I had some phenomenal partners that are addressing these items, but I can assure you, if my career wasn't where I wanted to be, I'd be living inside command right now because simply put, we're human and we need a lot more leads than we can keep up here. Command is a great CRM to help us stay in touch. and, be top of mind. So cultivation, interaction, action-based touch programs, and then they help us go to secure appointments, then obviously under active or actives, if they're listings, or buyer listings, if you will, buyer clients, to under contract to close. But I am confident if you are not making what you need to make, if you look at this model, you could probably come up with some ideas about where the wheels are off the bus. Side note, I hate tracking my activities. In fact, I had a MAPS coach, Mike Bastian, one time when I was TL, and I had a 50-50 no-show on my appointments. Say, Brian, you're not bringing enough value to your conversations. And I wanted to punch my coach. Now, what I realized when I got past my frail male ego was I was closing so hard on the phone for the appointment. People were saying yes, not because they wanted to talk to me. They wanted to get me off the phone. So for a month, and I encourage you guys to toy with this, do it for a week, track. And if you guys email me or message me afterwards, I'll make sure you have the contact, or more importantly, Rosie's my phenomenal force multiplier. I can give you a prospecting tracking sheet you probably have in your market center, but track. How many dials are you making? Just do it for a week, maybe 4. And clearly, if you're not making a lot of dials, you need to pick up the dials. And then also track your contacts, how many people you actually connected with. Now, in recruiting, if I'm not setting an appointment every 4 contacts, I'm not bringing good value to my conversations. I would bet on frontline lead generation. That's probably pulling a little bit from Bold, which is a great course. It's probably around 50, if I'm talking to 10 to 15 people and I'm not making an appointment, I'd even probably drop it to 10. Then I'm not bringing enough value to the conversation. Next thing to track, how many appointments you're setting. How many of them actually show up? So if you're not setting enough appointments, but you're making plenty of contacts, then again, we're going to bring more value to your conversation. Vice versa, same thing. If appointments are set, but they're not showing up, more value to the conversation. Then when we're getting appointments and they're showing up, then we can analyze how your presentation skills are. And then after we nail your presentations, you're somewhere between a 65 and a 75% ratio. Then we can analyze, be it pricing or your performance as a buyer's agent, because I'm going to guess there's a ton of agents working with buyers here. You get more than enough buyers, you just can't find them property. So that means we got to have conversations with those leads to help not do it quicker, but help them find more value so they can make better decisions more quickly. All right, a little off track, but we'll keep rolling. All right. And lead generation, moving right along. I think we actually talked a lot about this. All right, keep moving. So be prospecting-based, marketing enhanced. That's where we talked earlier today. I can't stress, for lack of a better phrase, which probably goes as an oxymoron to this diagram. Tip of the prospecting is your initial tip of your spear, meaning that's how we, military proverb, military statement, land the beach. That's how we get that 2,000-pound concrete flywheel going. And we can take more control over our prospecting than we can our marketing. Does anybody know why we have more control over prospecting than marketing? I'm going to have to call on somebody.
We're talking to them individually.
Why do you think, or Michael Mahoney, you're jumping in. Why do you think we have more control over prospecting than marketing?
We're talking to them individually. Marketing, you don't know who you're talking to.
Bingo. We can control the source. We control what we go after. Whereas marketing, we're putting mailers out, we're on social media, we may get some responses, we may not get responses. Here's the other thing. We can also channel our prospecting efforts to get multiples. So a couple unique prospecting ideas. And I give this shout out to a woman by the name of Brittany Roy. She is, excuse my language, a badass independent agent in our market center who's the consummate professional. And she had, like most of our agents, and I'm sure like you guys, she had the challenging problem, and there's good problems and bad problems. She had a good problem of, some buyers that weren't finding the inventory. What list is available in every municipality for free?
Grand list.
Grand list. So she went after the grand list, compared what her buyers were looking for, what was available on the grand list. Then, and this takes extra effort. Right now, we need extra effort. We'll get a life worth living to have. She actually went out and prospected those people who own the properties that her buyers were looking for. Now, the good news is they didn't buy. You know why that's a good news? She got a 950,000 listing and she sold them something else. So she worked in multiples, meaning ancient Chinese warlord, Sun Tzu, question, great. What is the grand list? Side note, in Vermont, we have backwards terms. So don't forget, I'm speaking Vermont and challenge me. Grand list is basically the list of the town that has all the property, the type, was it commercial, was it residential? Some towns will break it out from multifamily to single homes, but it provides the value of those properties, the type of those properties. Sometimes you can get contact information like mailing. You'll rarely ever get phone numbers. If you really want to challenge your town, try a Freedom of Information Act, subpoena to get phone numbers and contact information. I did it for apartment owners list. I didn't get anywhere. But again, think out of the box. So back to that multiples. A dry but powerful book, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, a 2,000-year-old ancient Chinese warlord. I hope to meet him one of these days. He's inspired me a lot of great things. Said, leverage every action, be it the action of yourself or your opponent, as many times to your benefit. So this is slightly off lead gen, but I think very pertinent as well. Leverage, and Sun Tzu for Success is the one I'd read if you're going to read it. Sun Tzu for Success. You can only get a paperback off of Amazon. But leverage point number one, she owed it to her buyer clients to find them property. Leverage point number two, she told her buyers what she was doing. So rather than Brooke rolling her eyes, Brian Armstrong's never finding any property, he's just checking in MLS, I want something better than that. She knew I was going the extra mile, which will then create repeat and referral business. Leverage point number 3 or 4, I can't count. She used it as an opportunity to go after listings if they weren't right for her buyer. So again, kudos to Brittany Leroy. If you see her, meet her, tell her I complimented her. But right now we're going to have to go the extra distance and we're going to have to think out of the box, but look for multiples. All right. So prospecting could be immediate results. It's proactive. It is time intensive. Now, the other thing is take a look, and the one thing's a great book as well. Are you the type of agent who says, I got to lead generate today. I'm going to do it from 9 to 11. So at 9 o'clock, you check Facebook. You then start to think about where you're going to prospect. You then maybe pull up some expireds. Then you check about your dialer, or around 8:30, 8:45, are you getting your prospecting time ready by compiling your lists, getting your database, preparing your use of a dialer so that you're really purposeful from 9 to 11 or whatever time you lead generate. All right. Any questions so far about what we've covered? Do you guys want to do some free thinking of ideas beyond for sale by owners, expireds? You want to do a brain dump of different topics? Is that a yes or no? Side note, one of my noisemakers is going off.
A few yeses.
All right, so a couple things. And hopefully these are, just turn off a noisemaker I've got going. There we go. All right, so get your pen and papers handy. Some of these you're going to hear of, or some of you haven't. So what marital bliss or lack thereof occurs in any market, good or bad? Linda, I think I saw you mention it. You're muted. Divorce. What professionals come in contact with multiple sources who could use our service around? Bingo. Mark Kavanaugh. I owe you a text, buddy. It was great to hear from you yesterday. Divorce attorneys. So before I launched or participated in helping launch KW Vermont, I was planning my own small independent, and I'll be very candid with you. I chose to partner with KW Vermont because I love the agent-centric model, the open books, the education, and it has changed my life. So, Mark is a great TL. He just touched on a bunch of great things. Divorce attorneys, possibly builders. With investors, pause on, let me go back to divorce attorneys. What I was going to do was compile a list of the top 5 bankruptcy attorneys in my area. I was going to go after, a phone call, a cup of coffee, item of value, another phone call. So I was mapping out my drip plan to go after divorce attorneys. And right or wrong, for good or bad, divorces, give or take 50%, 49%. And I'm not being a harbinger of darkness. I once had 2 friends go through divorce. She was crying at the table saying, Brian, I could have never done this without you. Thank you so much. So I'm not happy they're going through divorce, but I was honored to be the bright light in a dark moment of that person's life. For rent ads, again, for rent ads. Now with humor, you're going to call up rent ad. Brooke's going to answer the phone. She's like, Brian, I don't know if you can read. I'm trying to rent that thing. I don't want to sell that thing. And I would ask her, well, hey, Brooke, I can absolutely appreciate that. Are you familiar with a 1031 tax deferred exchange? And if in 20 minutes, I could show you how to defer your capital gains and increase your cash flow, would you consider a 20-minute cup of coffee? So tactic, that was a fair trade approach. Would you give me 20 minutes for an idea of how to defer your capital gains and increase your cash flow? So another model to think about is the fair trade approach. Now, the other thing, if she said as well, yeah, Brian, I was also, when I call for rent ads, or I don't do that as much anymore, you're looking for either the serial investor who may want to sell, trade up, or may just want to buy. You're also looking for that small landlord who felt like they were picked upon during COVID because the tenants got money, but the landlords maybe did, or landlords maybe didn't, and can't handle the stress of the current thing. I have one for rent call that led to 5 transactions. Listed and sold that property, listed another, got 2 referrals and a repeat out of one of those referrals. So for rent, everyone should get a copy of the MRE. Plus, it's a great opportunity to buy investment properties. So for rent ads. Another ad that I would, another source, again, you're going to feel like harbinger of darkness for a second, but these people do need our help. Bankruptcies attorneys. Go after the top 5 or 6 bankruptcy attorneys. Again, build out an action plan, use command to get them in there. I'm trying, bro. But I had a bankruptcy attorney who had one of the worst jingles, and oh my God, it's in my head right now. I'm not going to do it. In fact, he used to drive a Plymouth Prowler with a license plate that said bankrupt. He would send my father, rest his soul, 5 to 7 deals a year. So again, if I'm in a short-term time crunch, I'm going to put that proverbial Bowie knife between my teeth, and I'm going to pick up the phone and start dialing, all the common resources, just listed, just solds, but I'm also going to go after for rent. I'm going to go after bankruptcy attorneys. I'm going to go after divorce attorneys. I'm going to go after investors. The other thing that you guys might consider doing, you may or may not need a Freedom of Information Act to do this, is go talk to your municipality and ask if they can provide you a delinquent tax list. Now, if you're sensing like, really, Brian, really? I would lean right into it. Remember, the obstacle is the way. I'd say, hey, Brooke, I can absolutely appreciate what you're thinking. You're probably thinking I'm an evil, cold-hearted guy who's just trying to prey on people who are having trouble making their tax bills. Obviously not so fast. But in reality, Brooke, if you had a friend who was in financial tough times, would you rather see them go through foreclosure and hand that, or hand that equity to the bank or the town? Or would you rather have an agent like myself who wants to help them get out of that pain and get that equity they have in their pocket?
That's huge. That is huge. We've got 2 people raising their digital hands for questions.
Please.
Christina,
Awesome.
I think you were first.
Yeah, so do you mind if I go back real quick? A question
Please.
about the divorce. So I've been married 20 years. In your opinion, is that threatening to working with clients who are going through a divorce?
One is a great question, and congratulations. Side note, Chris Rock said you don't know the meaning of true love until you bought the garbage bags and the shovel, but that's not about what this thing is. No, I would probably do one of 2 things. I don't think it would be a discount. If anything, I would say, back to Sun Tzu, leverage that. They say, well, Christine, what do you know about divorce? You've been married 20 years. I would say, what I know about divorce is actually how to avoid it, how to have fierce conversations that are productive. And, Mr. and Mrs. Divorce attorney, that's exactly why you want to hire me. Now, I'll pause just for a second on divorces, and then Brooke's going to smack me up the side of the head to make sure that I keep us on track. Again, write out your action plan, your drip plan, your value proposition. So to me, if I was talking to you guys, I'd say, hey, not only are you getting a real estate agent that's trained in communication, you're getting a real estate agent that will go to court with you, that will testify to the value of the property, will meet with both parties independently of each other. So lay out all the reasons why they might find a value, because the reality is they can call any agent and get a value proposition, but will they get an agent who will meet with both parties independently, who, if necessary, will go to court? And I've been to court. I've defended my value proposition in court in the pricing strategy. Side note, if you have a client who's going through divorce right now, try to get to their divorce attorney. Brooke, I'll just keep using you for example. Hey, Brooke, I'm working with Christina Logan. Christine, I don't want any bad omens. You're coming your way. Again, 20 years, that's awesome. But I was just curious if there's anything else I could do to bring better value to you and Christina during this process. Hey, Brooke, it comes to mind, you probably have a lot of clients going through divorce. What can I do to actually bring you value and make your job easier as you work with these situations?
Huge.
Fish upstream.
Huge. So the other thing is, you're going to run into this with everything. You're not a home inspector. You're not an appraiser. You're not a mortgage person. So you don't have to know everything about everything in this world, right? There's that whole, I hate using this phrase, but it's almost the perfect way to put it. It's the stay in your lane. You don't want the inspectors doing your job. You don't want the mortgage people doing your job, and so on and so on. So remember, you're valuable because of your knowledge and your skill set as a real estate professional, not because of life experiences necessarily. They change some of our views, they mold some of these things, but you are the ultimate professional in all things we do. Did that help? All right, girl, you're going to have to help me with this name. I'm going to try. Ashelina?
Yes, Ashelina.
Great name.
I was so
Ashley,
close.
thanks for contributing. What do you have for a question? Thanks for being here.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you mentioned before, with going after people that's going to possibly go through bankruptcy, right? That's actually something that I wanted to do before, but I had no idea where to start. I actually went to my town hall to see if I can get a list of people who will probably are delinquent on their mortgage payments or their tax payment, but I wasn't really getting a lot of help. And the list that I did get was for people who actually have a property. So what's the best way you can recommend to get that piece of information?
For bankruptcy attorneys, I would reach out to your state's association or bar association and get and see if you can get a list. Inside note, back to that obstacle is the way. When you do things like that, I would just lean into it. Like if I go into a town clerk's office, Vermont doesn't have a lot of automated stuff. I'm like, you never believe this. I'm a CEO of a real estate company, but I don't know really how to search for a property in your town clerk's office. They all start laughing and then they help me. But I would go to the bar association, and on the delinquent tax list, we've got a couple municipalities for any Vermonters. I know South Burlington produces a list. I'll pause there. If you're looking at a list of delinquent tax owners, you're not going to chase grandma who owns $4.36. She just didn't put the right thing. But if you see grandma on that list over and over again and the amount's growing, that's an indication grandma may need our help. The second thing as well too is we've got one town who says, Brian, You tell me a property address, I'll tell you if they're up on their taxes. That town, I just went to another because that wouldn't have worked. Whereas again, South Burlington provided me a list. So I would go to the bar association and I would also lean in and tell them exactly what you're trying to do and ask them if they have any suggestions for you. Because side note, great Mark Cavanaugh, watch the chat. Mark's sharing some great resources. So the other thing on that note too, tell stories as you lead generate. And I mean, real stories. So for example, whether or not yours, so this is a true story you can leverage. I had an agent go to the town clerk's office, the courthouse. Somebody's got to, if they can check the mutes. Went to the courts, got a 3-unit brick apartment building, buku cash, went and door knocked on it, spoke to the guy briefly, basically got his door slammed in his face. Veteran who served this country, got screwed by a tenant, and assumed he was kissing his equity to buy and giving it to Wells Fargo because the sheriff had been by at one point, at a certain point, I don't know, it was the beginning. We helped that veteran sell that property, put 80 grand in their pocket. And we found out during the course of working with him, he'd been estranged from his brother. We reached out to his brother and reintroduced the two. Not reintroduced, but got him connected again. So you can provide phenomenal help to people in duress. You just got to first come from contribution and B, lean into it. And I'd say C, get out and do it.
And you have to have permission. You have to check the do not call. I'm going to put that out there. If you don't check the do not call and you call somebody on the do not call without having permission, doesn't matter if the town told you they're bankrupt. Okay, so I have to throw that out there as your due diligence. So don't be that person. Did that help? That question? Great. So let's take one more question and let's move on to the next part. So Connie, I think you were there.
Oh, you're muted.
Hold the space bar down if you can. There you go.
Hi, good morning. So yeah, I was just wondering about a script on that. Our towns are very automated down here in Massachusetts, a lot of the towns, so you can get information online, not who's delinquent on their taxes. So I'm just kind of looking at a script to walk in and ask them for it and objection handling on that.
So I'll throw out a couple ones. One is make sure you bring the elephant into the conversation because they're going to be thinking it. So you got to deal with it. Again, the obstacle's the path. So Connie, my name's Brian Armstrong, and I'm hoping that you can provide a copy of your delinquent tax list. I'm specializing in helping people who've been challenged through the pandemic capitalize on one of the biggest values or biggest sources of opportunity they have themselves, the equity within their home. So I was hoping if you could help me help some of our residents capitalize on that before it comes to a tax sale or foreclosure.
Okay.
Never underestimate writing it down a little bit. And then if you guys ski or snowboard, think of it like the moguls. If you're in the skiing and snowboarding, if you're looking at the next mogul, you're falling on your face. So I try to think 2 or 3 objections ahead. 1, they're likely to think I'm the harbinger of darkness. 2, they're going to be wondering why I want this information. 3, they'll probably be wondering what good will come out of such a request. So I try to make sure my script handles all 3 objections before, with humor, I spit it, for lack of a better phrase. And never underestimate writing down some scripts in advance. That help?
It did. So can we do a little, just a brief, I know you've got to get back on track, a brief objection handling? If
Absolutely.
You walk in there and they're looking at you like you have 7 heads.
So Connie,
you want us to give you people's personal information?
Well, Connie, I can first and foremost appreciate that. Secondly, you're probably, again, thinking I'm here just to capitalize on other people's woes. Right now, we're seeing values at all-time highs. If you had a friend who was going through a financial challenge, would you rather them see their property go to tax sale or foreclosure? Or would you rather have a realtor like me who wants to help them capitalize on that. That's probably not the right word. Leverage that to get into a better place.
Okay, so it would be probably good to write some scripts out and practice before going in.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But somebody mentioned on here, I think it was Brooke, don't hesitate to bring something in. So I mentioned, and here's actually one more source for you guys. So the property management company that I own, Dan Hogan's a great guy. I had him go to the code enforcement office of the city of Burlington, bring Dunkin' Donuts, bring coffee, and try to get us, because we were getting the grand list information on apartment buildings. But what we weren't getting, or excuse me, grand list on non-owner occupied. So I wasn't getting a delineation of what was second home and what was investment property. So I know code enforcement had the information that would get past the registered agents, past the LLC. And I had him try to schmooze to get that contact information first, so that when we began the marketing, we got past the attorneys, past the LLC, and actually to the actual property owner. And when Dan got actually a better database than we've ever got before. We got the contact names of the people who own those buildings, but we didn't get the phone numbers or the email address. We performed a Freedom of Information Act and we got shot down. But the difference is we tried and we have a list to mail to, even if we don't have a list to call. So it was a start. Then we put in a 33 touch in the property management. We have the team working with the property management to cross capitalize on those leads. Any other questions, any other thoughts, or any other Brian? That is ridiculous.
That was a whole lot of value. And if you didn't understand a whole lot of those things, don't worry. You can replay this and listen again and again and again. And it may not make sense till 3 more Ignite sessions in. So put a pin on something or write it down, reach out to one of us. But it may not make sense now, but by the end of this or on a different session, it may just click.
And side note, Brooke, I really appreciate you bringing that up. If you read a book in here, or if you take a class, with humor, I'll ask you this question. If you read a manual on how to fly a jet airliner, would you climb in the cockpit after the first time of reading it?
I mean, I'm pretty arrogant. I might, you never know.
I'd probably be with you like, let's try it. Let's see what happens. But no, meaning practice, practice, practice. So, all right. Database. Your database, and this is where, Brooke, you may have to save me, and I think we're supposed to take a break in a few minutes.
Yeah, let's do it right at 10. Let's hop at 10 for a quick 15, and then we'll have everybody come back.
Excellent. So remember, guys, first and foremost, prospecting will give you the most control. You're going after where you want to go, what sources you need right away. Think of a sniper rifle versus a 12 gauge that spreads pellets everywhere. Marketing is more of that 12 gauge. They both have their role. That comes from playing Halo, the video game. I don't know if you see it, but I got the Master Chief's helmet in my back, back there. So your database is essential. Now, back to being authentic. Up until 4 or 5 years ago, I probably had a C-, if not a D database. Now, I've been in and out of the TL position twice after I lost my wife to cancer, and I'll bring that up towards the end of this because there's something I think you guys should think about because of that in a productive way. I went back to the front lines, took off the backpack, I did expansion with teams, but I went back into the front lines. In addition to being the principal broker office, property manager, a couple other things, I did 22 transactions a year. Only 2 were, generated from cold calling. So I grew up in this town. I was enjoying my reputation. I was enjoying all that stuff. But when I stepped back from production into the TL role again, I realized I had to give the real estate team that my wife started an amazing value proposition, or they just leave the team. So in addition to pouring into them individually, I started to get purposeful about my database because I was no longer, 98% out of production. I still talk to people and maybe occasionally hold a meeting, and then the team steps in and rocks it. Now, with everything I've got going, the 4 or 5 different entities that I've got going right now, Guess what I'm doing a half an hour every 2 weeks? I'm going through my phone with my business partner in the real estate team, my talented force multiplier, Rosie Morales. And they're saying, all right, we dumped your phone. Tell me about Brooke. Tell me about Connie. Tell me about Christian. Is this VIP SOI? Is this somebody you should call? So my point saying is when people say, Brian, I'm too busy, and this is a wise ass answer. Brooke, I get it. I lead 200 agents, got my hands in 5 different companies. You're busy. So what else? So if I can find the time every 2 weeks to eat the elephant one bite at a time, I trust you guys have enough of a life worth living to also do it. Use an accountability partner, but don't say I'm going to sit down for 5 hours and do a brain dump out of my phone. It's not going to happen. Try eating the elephant one bite at a time. 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. So your database centrally stores information, is updated regularly, can be specific to needs or meet specific needs. Brooke, I don't know how to show them to set up a contact or a tag in command. I hope you appreciate my authenticity and my candidness.
Yes, and you know what? This is not the class for that anyway. You just have to know it exists. And
Yep.
It's so simple. Work with your MCTTs, plug into the trainings I do, watch the recorded trainings from me babbling for the last 6 months every Thursday at 1 p.m. The info out there exists in so many different places. If you can put a contact in your cell phone, unless it's a rotary, and friends, you might want to upgrade. You're not going to dial a lot on a rotary. It's the same. It is the absolute same feeling. I've also popped a book into the thread called The Golden Handoff. Now, you may be going, Brooke, why are you giving us a book about retirement and what to do with your data bank? And that one is a simple one. Start with the end in mind. If you start with the end in mind and you understand your end goal of, I want to be able to retire someday from real estate and retain my book of business and get a referral fee. So I'm going to sell it, retain referral rights. How do you build a data bank versus a database? So read that book. It's quick. It's like 138 pages. It's nothing.
And that's huge for 2 reasons. We see it all too often. We see great agents step out of this industry, lose all their income, versus having something that you can market, you could potentially sell, you could do all that. The other thing I encourage you guys is back to that law of 3 to 5. Again, my strong recommendation, create 3 to 5 streams of leads to your business. So consider tagging your leads accordingly. So, and don't over tag them. We did that in a big database. We tried to tag everything so it could be laser specific. And then we realized we had 5,000 tags. We didn't know what to do with them. We couldn't actually pull them. So right now, reflect with your TL, your productivity coach, or if you're on a team with your team, and think about some, good, simple tags.
Yes. Tags for life, tags for hobbies, tags that make you bring value to your world.
Bear with me. I was feeling a little bit of head rush from all the caffeine, so I had to take a bite of
okay.
chocolate.
I got you on this one. So let's get back to those lead funnels. It is so important that you are seeking permission, but I'm going to add another layer, friends. You have to earn the right to do business with these people. So moving people from lead to contacts is not begging. It's not hoping. It is not wishing somebody reads one of your emails. It's figuring out where the value is for them. Who are they as clients? So you're seeking permission, you're building relationships, and then you earn the right to have the conversation about real estate or future real estate plans. Once you have validated that information and you've received permission to have a two-way conversation, this is where you move them into contacts. And believe it or not, this is where opportunity should start cultivating. This is not, opportunity is not just how you get paid. It's project management for the entire life cycle of your relationship. So when you're thinking about your data bank, and I want you to remove the word database, that is so 2014. We are data bank people, okay? If you've been in my class, you know how passionate I am about that. When you have a data bank, and you know more things about your contacts, you bring more value. This should be a relationship for life, not a transaction. We are in the relationship business, not the transactional business. That's just what we do. That's part of our roles. Christina, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. So you're saying we have to get permission. I may be misunderstanding. So I have sent an email since I started real estate, like once a week, once every other week, to every single person I've ever had contact with in my life. So are you saying that's not okay? I just closed. I've been in real estate for 4 months and I just closed on my first deal on Friday. So whatever I'm doing is working.
So it is working, but here's the permission. You've got to bring value to bring the business in. So yes, do we have to give our name out there? When I was seeking permission, it's saying it's building the value. So, because could you imagine, let's visualize, everybody close their eyes. And I want you to think about the last marketing piece you got from an actual realtor in your world. Now, I want you to start an in-person networking conversation that way. So basically what I want you to do is come screaming into a room, holding your for sale signs. You're in a cheerleader KW shirt with pom-poms, and you're going to start screaming you're a realtor. That's actually what most of our marketing looks like, where we're not asking permission to understand them more as humans. So when you're seeking permission, you're building a value-based relationship through fun things like neighborhood nurtures, which are meant to bring curiosity and get people interested. And that's one of the ways you seek permission. Now, the biggest one with that is the TCPA. That's the do not call I was talking about earlier. If you don't have permission to call someone, implied permission, written permission, you should not be calling them. You can build a relationship. You can ask if I can call you via text, via email. But seeking permission and receive permission is building value and then looking for those cues to start the relationship of the two-way conversation. Does that make sense? It's a little tricky. We come into this world and we just vomit real estate because we're so excited. We're so excited about what we know. And yes, we have to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll throw something out. For example, it may challenge that a little bit. So back to that apartment owners list. Would I take a list of, apartment owners and just put it into my database and start having the drip campaigns go? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what's probably better is that I was then pair that up with actual phone prospecting, touch base with them, ask them what would bring a value, and then start to make sure my messages bring those value. So I'm not going to say just buying a list or something like that. It's not going to have any value, but it'll have more value when you do a few things. You get that permission and you get an idea if that would bring a value. So for example, if I was talking to Brooke, I might just say, hey, Brooke, we've got a monthly newsletter that goes out to apartment owners like yourself. It just basically talks about some legal issues that are happening, some maintenance issues. And I was wondering if that would provide you some value and if I had your permission to add you to our list.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge thing. The other thing to think about is think about your relationships as a bank. You can't withdraw if you haven't made any deposits to the relationship, right? So we are asking them to do something, to refer, to invest, to do something in our business, yet we have not deposited or showed the value. And that's where the permission comes in.
Any other thoughts, questions, or challenges? And please, folks, be authentic. This is a fail forward safe zone, and don't hesitate to call BS if you think it's there. All right.
No BS.
I love your marketing. I live for it. Yep. And we got Brian Steinmetz from Vermont in here. He's got some great social media going with video. I think that's a huge, huge piece. Looking at other couple of things, database is 2000 late. I like sending my SOI a real estate based joke or meme via email once a week. Great stuff. Sticks out, will stick out differently. All right, what time do we have? It's 10 o'clock. Brooke, how long is our break? I'm gonna go get some water.
15 minutes, shut your videos off, but when you come back, please turn it back on so we know you're there. And I'll be back in 15 as well. I got to go queue another video up.
Excellent, folks. Please challenge us. If you're thinking about anything, you want us to dive deeper, the more interactive this is, the better it will be for everybody. So thank you, guys. We'll see you in 15.
Hi, guys.
Just looking at a couple other minutes. I clearly had too much caffeine this morning, but does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me or Brooke to make sure? Side note, and the question I'm about to ask you is great to use at the end of appointments and setting them. What, if anything, could we share with you in the next couple minutes to bring you more value?
While they're thinking about that, I appreciate you, Brian, jumping on this, by the way. It is fantastic to have someone with so much knowledge. The people who are jumping into the Ignites, they're amazing humans, so make sure you thank them.
Folks, I can't stress enough. KW has changed my life. More importantly, it's helped me change others. So I encourage you, not only thank the presenters, but you'll get tired of my quotes. Training is like sweeping the floor. Just because it was done yesterday doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be done today. And
I find that there are so many different points in our agents' careers and even mine where I hear something and it doesn't, I'm like, yep, good, next. But then I'll hear it again and I go, oh, I wasn't ready to absorb that yet. I look like I have someone trying to take me out. I cannot remove the sun from my world in this window, even though I've got the blind. I swear somebody's not trying to get me, Brian, if you're worried about this laser on my forehead. Like there's either in my mouth, on my nose, on my head. So don't worry. No, I'm safe. Okay. If you see that, I just can't avoid the sun in my office. No, you never know what you're going to hear. I keep a ding in the back of my MREA. So let's count it on this one. So I've read this book because I've gone through 2. I've read this one 8 times over. And every time I reread the MREA, I pick up something I wasn't ready to hear before.
Yeah. So, on that note too, actually, while we're getting going, I'll give you guys some of my favorite books. And again, Audible, I should be on commission for Audible. Right. What I love about Audible is you can change the rate of the narrator and you can listen to it in the car, on the elliptical. I smoke a lot of meat and I actually now listen to Audibles when I'm prepping brisket.
It's delicious, by the way.
Yeah, and if you guys ever come to Vermont, you'll have some of the best brisket east of the Mississippi. All right, so it's a couple of my favorite books. Fierce Conversations by Dr. Suzanne Scott. I've started it this week for the 4th time. I've taken a 2-day class on it, a 1-day class. And on the 4th time through, I'm only 40 minutes in. I've already heard 2 or 3 things differently than I heard them before. Probably one of my all-time favorites, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Now, Chris is a former international hostage negotiator for the FBI. He breaks down real-life hostage situations, so it's almost like an action thriller. And then he applies the same tactics to business conversations. My goal for that book is 10 times. I've done it 6. Side note, he also has a great YouTube channel. And one of the best tactics to learn from Chris is what's called the accusation audit. You tell everybody, Brian's a good friend of mine. So I tell him everything he could be upset at me at. I wait for tactical silence. Then I ask a thought-provoking question. You use it all the time, personally and professionally. The MREA, I'll be candid, I think I've done it 3 times. Warren Buffett says if you're in real estate, you should do it 10. Side note, Carrie Kellerman, great to see you on here today. I hope everything's going well. Always great to be in the same atmosphere as you. My recent favorite, The Obstacle is the Way. I've already mentioned that. But the obstacle is the way. Oddly enough, folks, this next one, 8 out of 10, love it. 2 out of 10 say never recommend it. The Book of Joy by, and the reason why that one's great to listen to, and it has nothing to do about business, is it's a week-long conversation between the Archbishop Tutu and the Dalai Lama on joy. And it helps us consistently reframe the challenges of today. So that one just helps me stay sane in a world full of chaos. All right, but it's probably time. And Brooke, I was looking for your phone number because I didn't know if we're actually going to do an hour of real play. I didn't think that was going to happen, but
No, I think with you, I think the better thing we could do for our friends today is more objection handlers instead of that. Like, let's dig into when it comes to lead gen. You're so wonderful at mindset and flipping our mindset or giving us the hard crack across the face we need sometimes with mindset that I think there's more benefit to them than going off and making some calls. If you want
Thank you.
to play that.
I have a frail male ego and it's feeling much stronger at the moment. So when we get to that, guys, I encourage you, throw out the objection that terrifies you the most. You know, one of my favorite phrases when I finish conversations, people go slay dragons. And I say it because I want them to think about going to slay something bigger than themselves and mustering the fear to do it. And the more realistic you are in your objection handling, the role plays, the easier it's going to be out in the real world. All right, let me get back to sharing my screen. And I can't stress enough, guys, thanks for being here today. Really, hopefully we're bringing you guys some value. And let me go back to where we were.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
All right. So again, leads, you know, you're seeking permission. You know, like, so I'll give you an example. And in the recruiting as a TL, when I get shot down like a ball of flames, which happens all the time, you can look outside, see my embers light up the sky. Side note, I'm at peace with that because I have a future self, which I will talk about, you know, towards the end of this, that helps me survive anyhow. So if I get shot down in a ball of flames, Brooke, you know, refused to have a cup of coffee, I'd say, well, Brooke, you know, clearly you're a great agent. You're respected by a lot of people in the marketplace. Would I at least have your permission or call out, you know, reach out once or twice a year just to see how you're doing? And most people say yes. The other thing is, and this goes to Chris Voss, and this is a key tactic. Side note, I guess I'll give you 2 tactics. Have form but be formless, which is Sun Tzu, meaning know your methods so well that you can use a variety of methods instantly to better help you perform. Now to Chris Voss, start with no. Now, have form but be formless. If you're better at starting with yes, that's great. So I know a lot of agents in Vermont, we have a consumer information disclosure. The state of Vermont requires that we ask people to sign it. A lot of agents that I know like to get people to sign it because, like, well, if Brooke will sign the CID, she's probably more likely to sign the buyer-client agreement. Oddly enough, I like to start with no. Does anybody know why I want to start with no? And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
What's that?
You're a glutton for punishment.
That too. So start with no. No is empowering. So I'll give you an example. How I do that CID is I'll say, hey, you know, Brooke, the state of Vermont requires that I ask you to sign it. Believe it or not, you don't actually have to sign it. And if you don't, I'll just mark the day I present it to you. And then a lot of people won't sign it. Now I do that to get them feeling in control. And the same thing, I'll do it on the phone calls, be it lead gen or recruiting. Is now a bad time to talk? And if they say no, they'll feel better because they're in control and they gave you the blessing to talk. And if they say yes, just say, hey, great, no problem. I'll try another time. But start with no. A little off topic, but hopefully it'll. So circling back, leads, contacts, receive the permission. So in that analogy that I just used, Brooke was a recruiting prospect for me, even if she shot me down in flames. If I said, hey, would you mind if I reach out a couple times a year just to touch base, keep open channels of communication? You know, I have permission. It's get permission. All right, so we're at prospecting, marketing. Remember, we captured, you know, leads, we're tracking and offering. Contacts, we're connecting and offering. Side note, we'll also do some trial closes. So like, I'll give you an example of a trial close. Brian, I just want to wait till spring. There's not enough inventory. Hey, I can absolutely appreciate that. You know, that being said, Brooke, this is a tactic. Feel, felt, found. I can absolutely appreciate how you feel. I've worked with a lot of buyers who felt the same way. And what they actually found was by just keeping open channels of communication, if the right property came up on mine before next spring, they know about it. And I was curious, if I find the right property for you, I mean, it just speaks to me as, you recite their goals. Do I have your permission to give you a call and maybe suggest we get out there and show it? Now, the key things in those tactics: feel, felt, found. Leverages our innate desire to be like other people. Feel, felt, found. And side note, we got some Vermonters on here. They'll tell you the first few times they tried it, they tripped it up. Actually, probably the first couple dozen. The second thing is, you're asking a hypothetical. If I found that right property, if it really spoke to me, and you recite their goals so they know you're listening, then you're getting permission to call them. Brooke, I know you wanted to wait till spring, but I got to tell you, I found that property that I think would make you, I forget, is the husband's name Adam? Adam, smile from ear to ear, recite their goals. It has that big built-in smoker out back. It has that, so, try to, again, use those tactics to do hypotheticals. One other thing too. This is going to sound a little Jedi-ish. If you close your eyes in a conversation, you really shouldn't do that. But if you did that, feel the energy. And if Brooke and I were like, no, if Brooke is saying, I want to wait till spring, I'm like, Brooke, you shouldn't. And she was like, yes, I should. It's just going to be like this. And Brooke's a badass, so she will just push back to win the argument. So back to Sun Tzu and sort of jujitsu, if Brooke is telling me it's not a great time to buy, I might say, Brooke, I can appreciate that. And you know what? Now might not be the right time for you to buy. So what's just happening? She's pushing, and instead of me pushing back, I'm just letting her push. And then I try to circle it back. So I appreciate now maybe not be the right time to buy. I just want to throw out some, questions that I might ask you and Adam to think about over the next couple of days. And then I'll ask some questions like, what if you were able to find this? What about the interest rates? And then hopefully throughout, not through pushing her, but she'll, with no pressure, stand back, think about my questions and be like, you know what? He is probably right. If we did find the house that had X, X, and Y, or the interest rates where they are, maybe we should toy. So I'm getting a little off track, but I think some of those tactics will help with your lead generation. All right, and moving right along. So question for you, Brooke. Are you thinking this is 19 plus 36? Because one of my questions always was, I believe in the 33 and now the 36 touch. In fact, I've got in those other entities that I own, I have a marketing person working on developing right out of the MREA, 36 touch for closet, 36 touch for cannabis, 36 touch for property management. I was always wondering, does that include the initial 19 that they're talking about here, or is it in addition to?
This is different. So this is why that check mark in command is so important, right? You're going to put your contacts on a 36. You're going to put your leads on a 19 because the whole point is to get them to move from leads to contacts. So 19 is just a different plan. It's your quarterly calls. They still get monthly emails, but maybe not bi-weekly. They still get videos or, they get some type of touch every month. They get 2 direct mail touches, and maybe they get invited to a client event that your market center has or you hold. 36 touch is meant to keep those people in constant contact with you who you may consider sphere or are going to look to buy, sell, refer, invest, or possibly getting to real estate.
So I'll throw out this is actually great for a couple of reasons. So I'm going to throw out some pop quizzes. And if you guys, Brooke, I didn't even think about this just now, so hang on. And if this is politically incorrect, you can never have me back. I'll throw out a pop quiz. If anybody like a Magic Man cannabis product t-shirt, if you get the next answers right, Rosie, help me on. I think you're on this. Get us your address. We'll send you either Magic Man face mask or a Magic Man t-shirt.
Is it infused?
No, this is just my cookies. Stay away from the cookies.
Okay.
Or, well, if you're, never mind. All right. So Boomtown, industry renowned, customer relationship management software. And I think slowly but surely, Command is getting there at that level for big teams, whereas Command, I think, is there for small teams and independents. How many contacts does the average agent make versus, so question one is how many of the contacts the average agent make on a lead before they give up? And then question number two, it's a two-part quiz. On average, how many contacts does an agent in the top 20% of Boomtown users make?
People are putting it in the chat. 1, 5, 5, 10, 133.
Okay. We'll close it in 5 seconds. 5,
3, 11, 2, 8, 4, 18, 4, 19, 120.
All right. We're good. We're going to get, somebody's going to have to win this. So I'll give you another one. So the top, the average number of contacts a person makes in Boomtown before they give up. 4. Top 20%, 8. Now, here's the thing about internet lead generation, which is why your SOI, your database, and the 3 to 5 channels is so absolutely huge. First, my first way for Rest Your Soul was spending $45,000 a year on Zillow and Realtor. Our average lead was $75 to $160. So every time the phone rang, we were handing out Benjamins. And if you start seeing $100 bills go out of your pocket every time the phone rings, you realize how expensive it is. Now we were making $45,000, so the ROI wasn't horrible. Now circling this back, thanks to Command, we're actually regularly getting leads for $2 to $4 a piece. We're also doing SEO and PPC, which is we're costing our team leads $7 to $12. But circling back to the internet leads, how much does the lead conversion drop from 5 minutes and 1 second? So in other words, you answer the phone in the first 5 minutes versus you responded in 5 minutes and 1 second to 10 minutes. So the pop quiz for the Magic Man face mask or the Magic Man t-shirt is how much percentage does the lead conversion opportunity drop between 5 minutes and 1 second and 10 minutes?
Put it in the chat. Okay. We're going to give you 15 more seconds. Some big numbers. All right.
I got one that close.
And a couple.
All right. If nobody
All right.
wins the thing, we'll just do a random drawing. Hopefully, if we get the chat log after, we can send something out.
All right, let's end it.
400%.
What? Can you say that number again?
So per Boomtown studies, if you respond to an internet lead between 5 minutes and 1 second and 10 minutes, compared to the first 5 minutes, your lead conversion opportunity goes down 400%. So I want to be clear on my sort of points to this. First, I do believe in internet lead generation, love Command, love SEO and PPC. I think Zillow's the dark angel. And I'm going to slay that dark angel. Now, reason why I mentioned that is if we get too caught up in just marketing or SEO or PPC, even the Command leads through Facebook, we always have to be John or Jane on the spot and get back. And the question I have for you guys, is that sustainable? And is that the way to create a life worth living?
No, no. Speed to lead. A lot of you guys come to me outside of classes like this and you're like, I want Facebook ads. I want this. I want that. And I'm like, yay. And then I say, show me your follow-up and what does it look like? And you're like, I've got this great thing. When I answer the phone, I say this. And then I say, well, what happens at 2 a.m. when the serial shopper drinking her wine is clicking on all your ads? What do you do then? What do you do when somebody comes in an off time that we're not supposed to be calling? When you're
So I'm going to date myself. People on here watch the original Blues Brothers?
Yes.
Remember what a rubber biscuit is? Rubber biscuits type of biscuit, you throw it off, you throw it against the wall, you hope it bounces back and goes in your mouth, or you go hungry. Wish sandwich is 2 pieces of bread and you wish you had some meat. So with humor, guys, you know, don't be eating rubber biscuits for dinner. Don't be with sandwiches. Take the time to lay one brick at a time towards this system. All right, I'll keep rocking and rolling.
I was not expecting to laugh this much on Ignite this morning. Let's keep going. Guys, rubber biscuits. If you take nothing away from today, rubber biscuits, wish sandwiches.
But
Right?
yeah, before
That's
we
what
get
you
going,
win.
is you guys develop your 3 to 5 lead channels. And back to Christine, I think is Logan. So when you think of going after those divorce attorneys, let's break this down real quick. So 4 touches. Quarterly phone call, just call, even if they never give you the time of day, call them once a quarter. Call that list of divorce attorneys once a quarter. Side note, I once gave a financial analyst my money because he called me once a month for 12 months. They didn't do so great servicing me afterwards. That's a whole different story. But I gave it to him because he was tenacious. So 4 quarterly phone calls to those divorce attorneys. 12 touch. It could be an idea how to maximize, clients' values. Another, touch in that email could be something about helping kids through divorce. Could be another one. An agent just got a referral from me in Virginia because he took a class on collaborative divorce, and I was referring him a close friend who was going through divorce. You might spotlight communication books or something like that, throw it out there. 2 touches, promotional direct mail. I once had an agent who got a listing because she gave away logoed flashlights for Crime Watch. And then 1 touch, annual event or something like that. Side note, we should talk about annual events before we hang up today, because you can make them very, very inexpensive with the help of a great mortgage partner and others. No big surprise. One of ours, we smoke a ton of meat. Our clients love it. Little off track, but let me get back. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing the tech demo, but
No, we're not going to do the tech demo anyway, guys. That's what I'm there for on Thursdays. Classes in your market center. There's tons of information on this. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of what we're doing.
Actually, and let's remove a limiting belief. They already get too much contacts. They're just going to unsubscribe.
Correct. That's
reality. The reason why we went from 36 to 36, 33 to 36 is because of all the exposure that we have out there. And if you've got an eye-catching subject line in an email, even if they just think of Carol Manelli, if I pronounced her name correctly, or Nathan Clifford or Shelley Marr, even if they just see that in a subject line, you'll have made an impression. Obviously, let's do better, but that makes an impression. Add contacts to your database. So I would love to tell you in all honesty, but I can't, that I don't carry business cards because I take the Gary Keller approach out of the millionaire real estate agent. I will tell you that
hit mute. Do I have to hit mute?
But hey, this is from Gary.
No, I know.
So the reason why I don't carry business cards, because I always ended up throwing them away. They always ended up, bent. They always ended up, crimpled, and the ink was coming off them. But I do leverage the Gary Keller approach. I'll meet people at a networking event, and I'll be like, "Hey, do you happen to have a business card?" Believe it or not, I actually don't have any on me. Carol, would it be all right if I get your contact information and I'll send you mine? And I'm telling you, leverage. So if it's right for you to carry business cards, carry them. You're probably better off if you do, but make them a little bit different too. Secondly, if you don't carry them, do the Gary Keller maneuver and you leverage it to get their information and their contacts. So one is, I would say, add to your contacts. This is actually going to be maybe a little off topic, but I think it's going to be on. So far, you haven't had to mute me, so I'm going to keep trying. Brooke, a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and I think this is a little bit of Bruce Hardy plus a little bit of my friend Adam Hergenrother. I don't know many people who are in balance. I know people who have better counterbalance. This part is Bruce Hardy. They realize one week they work too much. The next week they calendar time off to be present with family dinners. And then they just swing back and forth. But the other thing is work-life integration. Now, I'll give you an example. I used to play a lot of golf until I bought a motorcycle and fell in love with a woman who owns a boat. Now my golf game has disappeared. But one of the things I did to integrate some exercise, some networking in business was I signed up for a golf league, and I was terrified because I'm a horrible golfer. But once a week, I was forced, and it was in my calendar, to get out and play golf with people who I didn't know so that I could network and I could build contacts. Now, what other ideas come to mind? Let's throw them in the chat. What other social activities come to mind that you could integrate with your work-life balance to generate running club? Beautiful. You guys are on the right
Love
track.
that. PTO. Yes.
PTO.
There's going to be scary people though. I'm working
Church.
with PTO right
There you
now.
go. Awesome.
How about
Volunteer work.
what other community events are happening? Brian and I are devout smoker people. I have looked at him for many a recipe and help along the way. Build your community. What's your community? Actually, thanks a lot, Brian. Since bringing my son up there, my barbecue does not compare to yours. So by the way, you just earned another 17-year-old. I'm just going to drop him off the next time I'm up there.
Excellent. So one is some great activities. Also, don't hesitate, book clubs, professional networking.
Brian Steinmans, no, drinking is not, unless you're at the bar.
Crub Paul, Crub Paul.
Club crawl.
Whoa. Yeah, I had an extra cup of coffee this morning. I'm not joking. So my head's been a little bit, now I know why I have 1 cup of coffee, not 2 French press cups.
Oh, I'm on like Nespresso level caffeine right now.
Yeah. So also, I've played probably 12 poker games in my life, maybe 11. I had a group of guys that did not want to go out on Friday night at 8 o'clock to start a game for 4 hours. But I knew there were some friends there. Through that poker game, I probably closed $3 million worth of business in 4 years. I made a hire. So that one guy is a gentleman that owns a ton of apartment buildings, and we were both in shitty t-shirts and vibing. And next thing you know, we're talking real estate.
What's your community, right? What is your community? I want everybody to write that across the page right now. I want you to write this down. What's my community? What communities can I add? 2 questions to leave with today. What's my community? And what communities can I add? Can I tell you guys this psycho? I crochet. I go to something called Stitch and Bitch. Like, it is my favorite
Get out
thing.
of here.
No, I believe it. My grandmother taught me how to do it when I was 5. I've been crocheting since I was 5. I can do it in my sleep. Any pattern, anything. I'll make you mittens. You need mittens? I got you. You need a blankie? I got you. But I don't look like your typical crochet person. But that's my community. And so when I go to these things, now that I've been doing it for so long, even via Zoom during COVID, we had virtual Stitch and Bitch. It was hilarious. They come to me for real estate stuff, not because I sit there and crochet and talk about real estate, but because I brought value to my community. That's my community.
Yeah, and that's huge. I'm catching us up a little bit. So the other things that comes to mind with humor, and I hope I respect anybody on this voice or on this Zoom. Every Friday morning, the staff knows that I go to church. Now that church happens to be called Stowe Mountain Resort in the winter. That's the only church that I go to or respect anybody else's. But snowboard leagues, skiing leagues, golf leagues, whatever, hiking, get out there and, embrace what you love and integrate it with what your business is. And when you go, maybe have a jersey on, maybe have a name tag on, maybe just have a shirt on. Brian Steinmetz, a shout out to Brian who's on this. That may be a good idea, Brian, getting a poker game going. Brian planned on, and I hope since most of you are in Vermont, he's not going to be offended, socks. He's going to give out funky socks. So think of little tchotchkes, things to do.
Branded funky socks.
Branded socks.
Branded, yes. And Zaz has a very big brand.
Yeah.
I knew
So
who he was before I even stepped foot in the market center from a sign I saw 3 years earlier.
Yeah, yoga, somebody mentioned. So some of this is marketing, but don't hesitate. I'm sure we'll get into Ignite at a different time in marketing. But the other things that come to mind too is what are your tchotchkes? What are your giveaways? Lead generation that I used to do, which was partial marketing. No big surprise. I'd say, hey, Nathan Clifford, if you buy a house from me, I'll bring a prime grade brisket smoked for 12 hours. It's best brisket you've ever had east of the Mississippi to your home or housewarming party. All I ask after closing is you give me 2 weeks notice. So people would laugh. Then they'd say, hey, do you get that brisket? I'd bring the brisket to the housewarming party. People would love the brisket. I'd get to talk to each one of them. And then I'd replicate the offer. I sold a house an hour and a half away that I only showed once for $255,000, and this was in a normal market, not the market you're used to, due to one 15 or 16 pound prime grade brisket. So, think about your housewarming parties afterwards or ideas like that. In this day and age, you can also just get a pizza shop, a nice big thing of lasagna. So think about use thank you gifts or housewarming parties at thank you gifts that once again generate more leads, more leads, more leads. Think of a turbocharger on a car. Most of you probably know, maybe you don't, how it works. It uses exhaust to put more oxygen into the motor. And that's that beautiful little lag that you hear, or I've heard before I see the blue lights go on. I once had a traffic judge say, oh, Mr. Armstrong, you're here again today. Was not a good day. But anyways, it turbocharges your business. So think of thank you gifts and post-closing celebrations like turbochargers, and do something that both markets and generates more leads for you. All right, I got way off the timeline here. All right, so sales pipelines. Where we're at right now, cultivate interaction and action-based touch programs, nurtured and qualified. All right, so you guys, let's pause for a second on social media. What is a good way to cultivate connections, touches, and leads through Facebook, Meta, or whatever the hell it's called right now?
Social book is what I call it. Whatever social platform you're on.
Post and respond. All right.
Frank uses interactive stories. I love stories. I put nonsense, pure, utter nonsense in my stories. Brian Steinman, did you see mine today? Don't eat raw cookie dough.
So actually, all great information. And Carrie Kellerman, great suggestion too. Post and respond. So as you build your database and your SOI, you might also think of rating them VIP, non-VIP, or A, B, C, D. Now, this is an A, that I like them. B, they're idiots. C, I can't even stand them. D, this is A, either your biggest raving fans or your VIPs. Maybe you don't even know them that well, but you know that, if you connect with them, they know a ton of people. B's may be the best people on earth. They're just not super gregarious. And make sure you're touching in social medias their posts. So make it part of your lead generation after you make your calls or in between to give a 5-minute break, and go through and make sure you're posting on your SOI, replying to them, nice thing. And I did this recruiting. I'd say, hey, Brooke, great listening today. How's it going? I'd maybe chat on some of her family stuff. Then when I gave her a call for the occasional cup of coffee, it wasn't, yeah, you're just trying to recruit me. It was the person you've been interacting with on Facebook.
Exactly. And so how many of you are on the growth call? Raise your digital fingers. Okay. Guys, I give you the stuff. The whole region, we work on these things. We give you the engaging posts every week. It is click, copy, paste, set it and forget it, and then engage. Because last week was about Halloween candy, right? Fruity or chocolate. That's a tag. That's a tag. You bring it on back to your data bank.
Yeah.
And then how great would it be if you knew you're going to be door knocking a neighborhood and you know you have 3 people in your database in that neighborhood, you drop off the Snickers or the now and laters or whatever was in there and be like, I remembered this from a post with a little handwritten note. Now you are a superstar. You didn't ask them to buy, sell, refer, invest, or vomit real estate on them.
Yep.
I love that idea, but I'm also a bit wary about the copy paste idea of it, because then I feel like everybody's gonna have the same thing. So I also feel like it's very good to get creative with your own, change it up a little bit, because I worry that
No, and I'll tell you why. You and I don't have the same sphere, the same followers. What happens is you join KW and did you gain 500 new friends on your Facebook? Right? You gain all these new followers. All of a sudden, Sam Alpern's following you because he's watching you, or Shelly's following you, and now you see everything they post. We have very different worlds. Very different worlds. Add a few hashtags, and make it your voice, but don't overthink it. A lot of our agents just sit there and go, what am I going to post? I need to change this. I need to do this. And you just don't go and do. So don't overthink the process. Copy, paste, go. And don't overthink it.
And I'll sort of second that and challenge it at the same time. That's where, again, have form but be formless. One of the biggest things that we see a lot of limiting beliefs. And if you haven't looked at them recently, go to KW or just Google 6 personal perspectives. And one of them is removing limiting beliefs. So example, I'm a firm believer in the 4 events. I only started doing it 4 or 5 years ago, even though I've been in real estate and with KW 12 plus, but 30 years or so. And the 4 events per year was such an amazing thing, but we started with pies and everybody's like, everybody does pie events. Sure, every team may do real estate pie events, but do the customers know that? And I once had a 80-year-old gentleman recovering from hip surgery who was wealthy enough to buy his own $10 locally made pie, come for a free pie. A, it was funny to get a free pie, and B, is he wanted to say hello to me. So, but a lot of people challenged our team and said, everybody's doing pie events. Now, here's the other big thing that I'm seeing right now, at least in Vermont. People aren't calling high-end expireds because everybody's calling high-end expireds. That is a limiting belief. I know 3 agents who started going after high-end expireds, and believe it or not, not a lot of people were calling them, and they got listings. So remember, there's a lot of people saying, I'm not going to call Fsbos because everybody calls Fsbos. Well, a lot of people are giving up because everybody thinks everybody calls for sale by owners. Same with expired. So, just some thoughts, get a little off track. And so cultivate, interact, touch programs, nurture and qualified appointments, active under contract, close. Oh, one more thought on social media is lead gen. Try to use some things to do interactive, get asked questions so you get more feeds going back and forth. Adriana Acosta, where can we find expired and Fsbo lists? So one is certainly you can do in most MLS systems, you can pull up expireds, and I'll comment there for a second. And Brooke, if this isn't valid, get me back on track. But I think this is. We're covering some of the basis things. So 1, you can pull expireds out of for sale, or out of MLS. Secondly, what I'd recommend if you're going to go after expireds right now, go after the high end, go after multifamilies, and go after historical expireds, meaning expireds 1, 2, 4, 5 years ago. They may or may not have relisted and sold. Now, KW England will tell you to check the do not call. I will concur with that. Your code of ethics will say that you should take a reasonable, step to make sure they haven't relisted. So after I check the DNC, my script would be not so fast. Hi, Brooke, this is Brian Armstrong calling. First, I was calling to see if you actually have relisted and sold your home. And secondly, to see if you're still interested. Now, if she said, yeah, I actually resold it a year ago, I don't know why you're calling me. My apologies, Brooke. Have a great day. But I view that as if she said, no, I haven't, then that's reasonable to make sure I'm respecting the code of ethics. And, also not, because we'll find excuses. We'll find reasons to spend hours making sure that Brooke's house wasn't relisted. So great, you made 1 call in an hour. And I mean that polite poke. Now, Fsbo lists. Certainly you may have Fsbo syndication, stuff like that. but do investigate dialers in services such as Reddit, Land Voice. Shoot, what's another couple? I'm blanking here. There's a couple more, but dialers in the lists. Vulcan, thank you very much, Sam. Vulcan's the one I was thinking about. They will provide you lists that if you're in Vermont, they're not that accurate. If you're outside of Vermont, they're probably slightly more accurate. Now, Cole Realty Resources, that's another good source too. Now, a thing about dialers, I hated dialers. I felt like I was snowboarding on ice because they were dialing 3 people at once. And I was like, oh my God, they're gonna all pick up at once. Well, never really happened, but you can also program it. So if it happens, it either sends them a message or goes to their voice or something like that. But remember, we all have the same amount of time in the day. The question is, how are so many people able to get so much more done? It's because they leverage their time differently and they ask, how could I do more in 1 hour? They look for, back to 6 personal perspectives. They go from being entrepreneurial, picking up the axe like a Vermont farmer and swinging it hard, to keeping that habit, but getting really purposeful about how they sharpen their axe, how they swing that proverbial axe. To me, how I got really sharp on that, and hopefully it doesn't sound too conceited because I screw up like everybody else every single day. I really dove into communication, understanding personality profiles, listening and learning patterns so that I could better connect with people in short instances. All right. Moving right along, tech plan, smart demos, we'll keep those rocking and rolling. What I'm thinking of happening in about 7 minutes, we'll take another break. And then for the balance, we can do objection handling. And here's, for a variety of reasons, I've been nicknamed Panda in our market center. Now with humor, be careful. You poke the panda, you might get a grizzly. But my name's Panda. So when we get back, we're gonna play Stump the Panda. And you guys are encouraged. I am pretty huggable. Thanks a lot, Brian. But when we get back, I want you to think of every objection that makes you just sort of quiver. And I want you to throw what you can against me and see if I can handle it. And then we'll break down the model behind it. If anybody slays it particularly well or stumps it, again, we'll get you some Magic Man, face masks or t-shirts. Nathan, good luck on that next call. Thanks for joining us. All right. So recaps and ahas. So again, before we go on break, we got 6 minutes. Let's get at least 5 or 6, if not more. Who wants to jump in and either A, share an aha, or B, challenge a limiting belief they have? We hear the Jeopardy music going on.
I know. I feel like I should cue it up. Hold on. Can I do that? I think I have my Stream Deck's dead today. Or how about this? So for our friends that are newer at KW, when we say ahas, we're not asking for explosive Sun Tzu moments where you're going to go out and write a book. What I'm looking for is something you're going to take and implement it right away. 1% better every day. So what is one thing from today's Ignite session, besides he's a panda, that we smoke meat from the content that you're going to put into your business immediately?
And with humor, if I don't hear some people jumping in, I'm going to randomly call on you. And it'll be just awkward if you make me sit there.
So I got a good one. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to start looking in the MLS at the expired listings and just looking at that stuff. I'm still pretty new, but
I think that's huge. My recommendation, amp that up even more. Use the buyers that you have and what they're looking for to first check those type of expireds. Make sure your buyers know that you're doing that so you can leverage it once again. Find a community, identify new communities. Excellent. Reaching out to contacts more, engage more community. Love it. See here. And Sam Alpin, few agent persons here, some ahas. Who's my community? How do I get involved with them? Business to business relationships. I love business to business because it's multiples.
Oh, me too. B2B is a untapped resource, but Al
Yeah.
could get on a whole soapbox about that.
You know, the other thing that just popped in my head, if you've got a lot of Airbnbs or bed and breakfasts, is there something of value that you could provide that host? You know, to leave at their bed and breakfast or something like that. Sometimes it's a magazine. Yeah, thinking way outside, the standard is, lead or ways to locate leads is huge.
Right.
Ryan, I got a question.
Please.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Is it unexpired, right? Is it a good practice to know when expires are about to happen, or should you wait until they are actually expired? And then when the expiration happens, you give time for the listing agent to kind of re-up, or I think it's touchy, but I'm trying to get a strategy here to be like the first one in to get an expired listing.
Great question. Let's spend 3 minutes on that before we take our break. So one, I recently heard of, I don't know the names of services, and I'll be frank, I question if it's appropriate or not. Services that pull houses that are for sale and then basically say, are you happy with your agent? Are you happy? Which marketing tools? And then they find out in those questions when those people are about to expire and they sell the lists. I questions, and I would talk to your local broker and local team leader to make sure that's something. And again, I don't know the names of those companies. I was just introduced to that concept last week. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, check with your office about inter-office policy. So give me an example. Years ago, we're Vermont crew, we're rambunctious. We launched in the market fallout of December 2009. We had so many KW agents going after fellow KW agents expireds that we looked like a pack of hyenas tearing at loose flesh. And so our ALC developed an expired policy that says, if Brian Armstrong has an expired, Linda Bartol wants to chase it. If it's less than 30 days, Linda calls Brian, and if Brian doesn't get back to her in a reasonable amount of time, never define that, to me, that's a few hours to one day, then Linda can go after it. But if I told Linda, hey, these are close family friends, Marvin is the name of the gentleman that hip surgery, just had hip surgery, he took it off for the winter, then she would back off. Now, the reason why that's key within your KW is alone we're a drop, together we're an ocean. It helps us all, perform better if we balance being aggressive and also very polite, but not so polite that the competition gets the deal. So the other thing I would think about, depending upon your geographic location, keep in mind, Vermont, we cover a lot of geography for a few amount of sales. A lot of agents are phone calling the expireds. I would consider, and I'm sure they have one in command, get a pre-listing package and do one of two things. Go overnight it so that a FedEx package, it's going to cost you $25, give or take. But they're like, wow, every other agent called me. Brian had a FedEx package sent to my house showing what he does to, sell homes. The other thing, this is old school. Don't hesitate to just go there in person. I know that your home recently came off the market. It was confirming that you're still interested in selling. And if, you know how I sell so many houses or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing is this, and I'll pause and we're just going to go for a minute longer. Mm-hmm. One is lean into any objections. Remember, the obstacle is the way. So, and use statistics to your favor. So if you're on your first day, somebody asks you how long you've been in this business, I'm still in my first year. Accurate statement. If a Fsbo says, do you have any buyers? KW, and I was brand new, this is my first day on the job. KW Vermont is working with a tremendous amount of buyers who may be interested in homes like yours. You see how I dropped back to the strength of 200 in that case? Mm-hmm. Versus if I actually had buyers, I'd say, yeah, actually I do. I have 4 or 5 that are looking for homes like your own. Now with humor, right now, door knocking or going to expireds may be a touchy subject. I personally would encourage you to respect all political beliefs. I recently got a couple shirts that said vaccinated. Hope I'm not offending you. But if I was door knocking, I'd be wearing that shirt. And I'd stand back 6 feet and just say, hey, first and foremost. Now with humor, I also almost got the vaccinated AF shirt. You guys can try to figure out what that means. I'm saving that for when I get my booster. But we did recently have 2 agents door knock in one high-end neighborhood in Burlington called the Four Sisters neighborhood. Guess what? One day of door knocking, 2 listing appointments. But lean into any obstacles. All right, so I've gone a minute or 2 after. Let's go for 10 minutes. And then when you guys get back, let's stump the panda and think of every objection, every limiting belief, and let's hash it out for the rest of the class. So we sharpen our mental swords and better help you guys get after having the life worth living that you seek. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you in 10.
See you in 10. Shut your videos off, take a nice break, get up, stretch your noodles of your brains and your legs, and we'll see you soon.
All right, it is 12 after, and we all know that I talk too much, so let's get going. So really appreciate the feedback, you know, and also the challenges, and hopefully this guy, you know, this has helped you. So as usual, what I said we're going to start with, we'll mix it up a little bit. Help me help you guys. Before we end up today, ask me one more time to make sure I do it, to share with you an authentic story that probably a lot of you weren't expecting today, and how very challenging time, you guys probably already know what it is, how I was able to leverage that to, you know, probably 5 of my most productive professional years ever. So the other thing that comes to mind too is one individual mentioned to me directly, one of the reasons why I don't call Fsbos is they're afraid that they're going to argue with them. So first and foremost, thanks for your candor and your vulnerability. Remember, vulnerability leads to strength. Most people think it leads to weakness because you bear something, your soul, somebody could cut you and hurt you. But if we didn't get cut occasionally, if we didn't have the chance to heal, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't scar. So the second aspect is we got to find a way to use that for sale by owners' negative energy towards our benefit. So I might just say something, hey, Brooke, let me guess, you're really excited by this phone call. One more real estate agent trying to find out if they can help you sell your house. I'd lean right into that energy and then get them venting, you know, so they just spew it. They get all that out, you know, and then hopefully I'd get to a point where I could use the start with no. Let me guess, Brooke, you're just waiting for a real estate agent to call you and see if they could help you sell your house. Nobody's called you yet. Well, no. So just find funny ways. And side note, when you try this stuff, remember, failure is an active part of success. So quick pause that just popped in my head. And actually this one is a huge one, folks. Get your pens out. And Vermonters have already heard this. In the book, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, he talked about not only starting with no, but he talked about a one-line email or text to use with people that you've had conversations with, that maybe you found out about their goals, maybe even worked with, and they went silent. Now, on the Strong Will Real Estate team at KW Vermont, we have a gentleman called Nick that we've nicknamed him Leonidas out of the Spartan King. So Leonidas says he gets a 20% response rate on this email. And it's effectively a one-liner. So Linda, I'm picking on you because you're right on my screen. So let's say Linda and I talked about her and her spouse buying their first investment property to build for retirement because they don't have a pension. And we met, we looked at a couple properties, she went cold. Linda, have you given up on providing yourself an abundant retirement?
Absolutely not.
And that's what happens, because then they fire right back.
Yeah.
And so my second wife, I just got married this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. She's in the closet business, sells closet. She started using this and she's like, holy shit. Sorry, I swear. Now here's where Brian royally screwed it up. Because you got to be prepared to fail. And you just got to embrace the suck because it makes you better. So I had a massive agent in the Stowe area, and she shared with me, and they can probably picture, if they know Stowe, they already probably know who I'm talking about. She shared with me she wasn't having, my words, not hers, a life worth living. She's always working 5,000 hours. So she then ghosted me, didn't get back to me. So I sent her a text. Have you given up, and spending more time with your family? The ember generating response, yeah, I'm actually on the vacation with him right now. So, needless to say, I screwed that one up royally. But the fact of the matter is, if I didn't try it, we wouldn't have had all those other successes. So I find, laugh at yourself, don't take yourself too seriously. All right. And I think I got way off topic on that. But use that one-liner, have you given up on X? for the leads you've had good combos with, they've gone cold, or buyers you started up. And then the other thing, when you're closing, back to that pattern of 3 to 5. Keep in mind, when you were first going to school, they taught you in patterns of 3 to 5. So if you're going for an appointment, don't just, so I'll give you a better example. So I'll ask an agent, house isn't selling, pretend this is a normal market. House isn't selling, sellers are frustrated. Why are they selling? But I don't know. Or they want to go to Florida. I'm like, why do they want to go to Florida? I don't know. Go 3 to 5 levels deep. So here's a story on that. List my friend's house. He wants 170. This is going back 10, 15 years. He wants a condo at 170. I'm thinking 157. Problem without knowing their goals on a 3 to 5 level deep is if I just said, if it was you, Linda, I'm telling you, you get 157 is the price. And you're thinking 170. You're probably thinking, Brian doesn't really care about me. Brian just wants to sell this house fast. That's $13,000. So I said to my buddy, Dave, all right, so Dave, why do you want to go to Florida? Brian, you know this. I know, like, they just flatter me. I hate the cold. Dave, why do you hate the cold? Brian, you know this. I had a real bad rollerblading accident. I got a metal leg in my, metal rod in my, leg. And every time it snows, I feel the throb of that, the throb of that metal in my leg. Here's how I used it. Again, pattern of 3. Dave, in an effort to help you get to Florida before the snow flies and the cold that you can't stand takes hold of us, and you feel that throb in your leg, I believe we'd be better off pricing it between 157 and 162. So in the art of reciting those goals 3 or 4 times, what's the first thing that confirmed Dave? I was listening to him.
Listening, right.
And that's so important about why we have to restate people's goals. The second thing, with humor, I reached up in his rib cage, squeezed his heart a little bit. Now I did it with love, to try to, like a doctor who has to tell a patient, I'm sorry, Brian, you can't smoke blank all day and eat brisket every day and not have heart troubles. So find a way. Again, repeating it shows that you listened. Plus, it resonates with the brain because we've been taught in an early age in patterns of 3s and 5s. All right, I got way the hell off topic. 36 touch. All right, so I'll be very candid with you. I don't know every single piece of our 36 touch. And in the closet company and the cannabis, the property management, I have tasked 2 phenomenal individuals. Brandon Mattioli, hopefully heard this. Rosie, who's on this call, she's our force multiplier. She's got the toughest job in the world. She has to work directly with me. And I've tasked them in the various teams that I'm involved in to come up with a 36 touch for each company. Now, some ingredients. Occasional, non-denomination holidays. Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving cards as opposed to holiday cards. Why? Because everybody gets, Xmas card or something like that. How many of you got Thanksgiving cards last year that thanked you? Smoke detectors, that'll get you 2. Time changes, maintenance items, spotlights on local businesses, possibly go to a local business and just say, hey, I was wondering if I could give out a coupon of X, buy one, get one free ice cream cone. The great benefit is I have a database of X thousands of people. It'll provide you some great exposure, possibly get you some additional business, and allows me to come from contribution because I like to give items of value to my people. Buy one, get one free apple picking. That's also a great event. We're getting into dominational. This one may be touchy. Buy one, get one free Christmas tree, or if you have any cut down your own Christmas trees, you could do a client event on that. Other things that probably come to mind, health things, start of school. If I was going after landlords, which I am, our 36 touch has a rent a rebate form touch, has a change the smoke detector touch, has a lead-based paint touch, I started doing a video series, and actually, so one of you may be able to do this. we had an agent who was really pissed me off because they did something that was really good that I should have done. And I compliment that agent. They were running a landlord seminar with a local landlord association. And I'm like, what brilliance. And I'm an idiot. I own tons of rental properties and I'm not, why didn't I think of that? Well, guess what? During COVID, they had a limiting belief that nobody would attend those because they were in person. Guess what I did? Flipped it to Zoom. Guess who runs that with a local landlord seminar now? So we're running that once a month, landlord topics, evictions, stuff like that. That's all part of our 36 touch. So craft that. The 4 events per year, limiting belief. I'm a newer agent. I can't afford to do a movie theater event. But with humor, some of you are probably buying Zillow leads at $100 a pop. Go out to a lender, go out to an inspector, possibly title attorney, and see if they will co-sponsor. Now, movie theaters right now, I'll let you guys be your judge. We skipped them this year. But the first year it cost us, I think, $11 or $9 per person. And we got 139 people who attended. We had a lender contribute about $500. So for $1,000, we gave families a matinee, a thing of popcorn, and a soda. And here was the great thing. Where our phone calls, hey, Linda, do you have any business? Hey, Linda, do you have any business? No, they're, hey, Linda, Brian Armstrong calling. Haven't spoke to you for a while. Hey, we're running a movie theater event in a couple weeks. Just want to invite you and the kids to have a movie on us. Love to get you a popcorn and soda. Yeah, we're playing this. Hey, by the way, how's it going? You happen to know anybody? And so we set up good reasons to come from contribution. The second year, we did an event. Oh, shoot, we only have 20 minutes, about 5 minutes. We'll get to Stump the Panda. So oddly enough, our attendance stayed the same, but our declination rate went way up. Why? Anybody care to vocally, forget about the chat, say why that was a good thing? Mr. Lawrence, care to guess why our declination rate going up was a good thing?
Because they didn't need the advice anymore.
Well, what was good, a great question, is while we had these same attendance, more people were viewing our invites. More people were responding. We've done 2 barbecues years in a row, 2 years in a row. Yeah. And during COVID, we had people reach out, hey, are you gonna be doing your events this year? Now, the other thing that happened on event shoot. We did a pie event. We did pie and barbecue this year because they were COVID friendly. The barbecue, come on in and outside, enjoy some time with us. But we knew this is right when Delta was happening. We knew if Delta skyrocketed, we'd turn it through a drive-through barbecue. I'll neither confirm nor deny that I have a 1,000-pound smoker that is a business piece of equipment. If I get audited, I'm sending you guys brisket. So now with that, in the pie event, we had somebody call us up and say, I'm going to call Governor Scott and report you for having a public event unless you give me 3 pies. My reply, get that person 4 pies. But so much of it isn't the pie, isn't the brisket. It's the leverage to give us reasons to call people and come from contribution. All right. Any thoughts, questions, limiting beliefs?
I love that. I'm just going to point that out. I do have to hop for the rest of the day, guys. You have a fantastic day. I can't wait to watch the end of this recording and see the rest of your ahas and stump the panda.
All right. So one of my favorite video games was Halo. If you guys know Xbox, that's the Master Chief's helmet behind me. So you got to game yourself in this business. You got to have fun. You got to envision who you are. The reason why the Master Chief, as he's called, he's humanity's savior, is on my desk every day. It's because, I'll be candid here, I'll use foul language. When the shit's hitting the fan in our agent partner's life, I want to be that guy for them. So that reminds me every single day, I've got to be a phenomenal negotiator, phenomenal objection handler. When they're having dark moments in their personal or professional career, I've got to be that guy when they call me. So a little crazy up here. Side note, the only sane people are the people we haven't met yet. So this is one of my favorite things. I want you guys to throw out, you make them realistic, throw out, let's go for 10, 15 minutes, any limiting belief that is stumping you or an objection that is stumping you. And this is what I call sort of stump the panda, because I'll see if I can slay it. You guys will be the judge of it. The other thing is, this is part of baring our teeth at the demons and the dragons that haunt us. Because remember, as you guys are all way too tired of hearing, the obstacle is the way. All right, so who wants to try to stump me? All right, we got Daniel, and let's try to actually use the voice as well, voice in chat. If Rosie's was still with me, we can use the chat, but don't hesitate to just speak right up. Objection. We are waiting a few years to sell as a hedge against inflation. So method. First, I want to dive into their why. So Daniel, if you're okay being on voice, and if not, let's role play this a little bit. So Daniel, first and foremost, I can appreciate that. If you were to sell, why would you be selling, and where do you hope to go, or how do you hope to use the money after you sell?
I want to buy a vacation home in Florida.
And what about a vacation home in Florida is important to you?
Well, because I don't want the cold anymore. I'd rather be swimming most of the year. And I want to go live near where the Red Sox have, their preseason games.
Absolutely. And what about, that beach time is important to you? What about the Red Sox? Or is it just, Brian, I get depressed in the New England cold winters?
So I'm afraid that the reason why I'm objecting is because I'm afraid that I can sell for more later and capture more value for the real estate market in Florida.
Hey, I can appreciate that. And that may very well be the right thing for you to do. See how I didn't push too hard back. Acknowledge the value. So, because if I'm not going to give him a fight on it, there's not much of a fight to have. I'm talking to actually a lot of people, this is a feel, felt, found, who actually feel the way, felt the way that you have. And so I can appreciate how you feel. Do you know what they actually found? Now, this is the important thing, and I struggle with this every day. I got 2 ears and one mouth and clearly don't remember that all day long. So I'm going to try to shut up and listen. You know what concerns me about that?
What is it? Tell me.
Right now, interest rates continue to be at near record lows, and they've been that way for a couple of years. You know what's going to happen if inflation happens to interest rates?
They'll go up.
They'll go up. And I don't know if you knew this, but right now, if interest rates went up 0.5%, it would cost the average buyer about $10,000. What do you think that would do to the value of your home or your borrowing ability to get that great place, touch the goals 3 times in Florida that allowed you to escape those cold, New England winters, not dinners, and get you close to that team that you love so much?
Well, that does sound pretty intriguing. I'll have to give it some more thought. Yes.
Now, so right there, in theory, we just took a few years down to the potential of a month. And I say, so one is, depending on, the situation, I might go a little bit further for another close. And actually, let's try that. Hey, David, Daniel, I can absolutely appreciate that. I was actually going to suggest we get together over Zoom or in person, COVID, who knows, with you or any spouse that's a significant decision maker, and just have an exploratory conversation about what that would look like. And what I don't want you to do, I don't want you to make any decisions in that meeting. I just want to help you explore it. So in a month, if it's something you're interested in, we're better able to capitalize on the low interest rates and the tight inventory to help you get to Florida and enjoy some of those winter Red Sox games. How would 30 minutes, either Tuesday night or Friday night, work for you?
Yeah, why don't we meet at Starbucks? You can buy me something.
I'd be happy to do that. The only thing I'd ask is if I provide you value and service, that if you know of anybody who's thinking of buying or selling real estate, you consider mentioning my name. Does that sound
Okay.
fair?
That's a great deal. Thank
So
you.
note, yep, we got the feel, felt, found. We got the fair trade. 2 other words, and I hopefully I'm not stealing any thunder from tomorrow's, because tomorrow actually I would love this session. I also wanted to teach tomorrow about language. The 2 words exploratory and consider have gotten me more appointments than any other 2 words. Because like when I'm doing recruiting, somebody said, I'm happy where I'm at. I'll reply, you wouldn't be there if you weren't, were you? You know, hey, I was just going to suggest we have an exploratory conversation and get to know each other, do a little bit of networking. You know, I wasn't actually going to talk about KW, but if you wanted to, I guess we could. You know, so I do somewhat of a exploratory because it allows them just to explore. Now, on appointment setting, try to throw out 2 times. A, so you can control your schedule. B, so they can't say, I don't know, let me check and get back to you. Because usually when you throw out 2, they'll either grab one or they'll give you a 3rd alternative. Now, here is another hopefully good piece of value for you guys. Let me check with my wife and I'll get back to you. Let me check with my spouse and I'll get back to you. Hey, Mr. Lawrence, I appreciate that. You know what concerns me about that? Pause for a second. You know, you're busy, I'm busy. If we touch base next week, you're probably gonna be busy then. Why don't we do this? If Tuesday at 4 worked for your spouse, would it work for you as well? Yeah, no, that probably would. Great, I tell you what we'll do. I'm gonna mark it tentative in my calendar for Tuesday at 4. I'll text you Saturday or Sunday just to make sure it still works for the spouse. Because after all, happy house, happy spouse, happy house. Now, you will have higher reschedule rates with that method, but you will get more yeses to appointments with that method. You know, and then a good sweep, and then I'm using your guys' time. Let's go get back to a couple more objections. So Daniel, in addition to, you know, some information about marketing, what we're seeing for average price conditions, is there anything else I could bring to that meeting on Friday at Starbucks to bring value to you and your spouse as we explore this?
Yeah, I'd like to get a CMA for my house.
Great. Now I could have led with, all right, then we should meet at the house, not Starbucks, but it was a good sweep. Another great sweep at the end of a conversation. Linda, is there anything else that we could discuss today that would bring you more value as you explore potentially selling your house? Now, if the answer is yes, we got to go right there. If the answer is no, it's sort of confirming we brought value. Because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. All right, so what other limiting beliefs out there, you know, out there, do you guys shake or quiver or just say that's BS, that'll never work?
I have a question.
Please, Carolyn, thank you.
So, so there's a listing that just got withdrawn, okay?
Mhm.
So it's been on the market for 7 weeks. And in approaching the owner, who I happen to know, what could I possibly say to them that would make them hire me and not go back to a relist or something to that nature? Because let's face it, we're basically all doing the same thing. We're all, well, I mean, for marketing purposes, without really spending any money, so to speak. We're not.
Great question.
Okay, so if you may.
So first and foremost, and thank you very much, Carol. So first and foremost, check with your principal broker, your broker. Are you allowed to call withdrawals in your state? In some states, withdrawals are the same as terminations. In Vermont, withdrawn is not the same as termination. Withdrawn means they're still under a listing contract, but they're just taking a pause.
Yeah.
So I know I just reviewed an agreement from another firm yesterday. The agent checked both withdrawn and terminated. Our agent's question was, could I list this house? I'm like, absolutely. I don't think they mentioned, intended to mark terminated, but it was terminated. So go.
In Rhode Island, it's withdrawn, terminated.
Excellent. So great question there. So the second thing I would probably do too is, give me a little background. You know this person really well? Do you know this
Yeah.
person moderately?
No, very
So-
well. Yeah.
I would probably say something like, and let's actually go into this role play. So, hey, Carol, first and foremost, I saw that your house came off the market, and I was just curious if we might be able to have a quick exploratory conversation about where you're hoping to go when your house sold and what I could potentially do to assist you in that. And let's say we set the appointment, we're now at that conversation. So, Carol, thanks for having me today. If I remember correctly, I'm going to ad-lib some of this. You said you had about 30 minutes, so I want to respect your time. First and foremost, when you're going to sell your home, why were you selling it? Where are you hoping to go?
Well, because of the market and how expensive everything is, even with rentals, I was just thinking that maybe I would rent for, potentially a year, and then possibly head down to, Palm Beach. Was Palm Beach?
Yeah, no, Palm Beach. I've only been there once, but if I remember correctly, it was beautiful. What about Palm Beach, interests you or is important to you?
I love the communities there that they have, if you can, if I can afford them. But like Palm Beach Gardens, that sort of thing, I'd like to be in that type of a community.
Yeah, any particular reason why Palm Beach? You love the county, the communities? Just, do you have friends there? Do you have?
Yeah, friends, and again, the golf course is in your backyard. So are the alligators, but more so about the golf.
Pause right there. Chris Foss uses the phrase that I think it's something like, good negotiators know that black swans will appear in negotiations. Black swans are like those unexpected pearls. Great negotiators will go into negotiating seeking out to find those black swans. So I found she loves golf. I found she really loves the community down in Florida. Side note, you guys are dope dealers. You just don't know this. And I mean, of the legal kind. By talking with people on their goals, we get dopamine rushes going. We get oxytocin going, I think, which is more in person, serotonin going. And so as she's feeling good about talking about Florida, she's associating Brian Armstrong with feeling good. Trust me on this, little Jedi stuff. So then I might just say, well, respecting that we're in one of the hottest markets, why do you think it was, that your house didn't sell the first time? And what do you think the agent could have done better to help your home sell?
Honestly, I think that it was priced too high. I think, and this actually did happen, quite honestly. So let's just back up. I think that we should have started lower, much lower.
Yeah.
And then if there was, if it got to the point where we needed to, raise the price or something to that nature, then maybe we would have done it then. But to start too high and lose interest right from the start, not good.
Yeah, no, I can very much appreciate that. One of the challenges I've had to learn in this business, this is a great line, is for better or for worse, we as sellers and agents, Adam Hammond deserves credit. We as agents and sellers don't control the market. We can only interpret it. And if we're willing to listen, the market will speak. Now, as far as, it sounds like price, was there anything else? Was it any concerns about the agent's marketing? Were they doing proactive stuff, or were they just throwing it out like a hunk of meat on a few hundred websites and hoping?
Yeah. So the websites, and then they actually had, if I'm not mistaken, 8 open houses with no shows.
You know what? And if I had to guess, because I
That's
didn't
crazy.
only use this if it's true. If I had to guess, they were probably doing very reactive based marketing from the sounds of it, because I didn't actually hear about any of those opens. And one of the things that we see it, all too happen, this comes from, I think, Bold. We see agents practice the 3 Ps. They place it in MLS, they place a sign out front, and then they pray that the house sells. We actually practice 4 or 5 Ps, meaning we do those things, but we're actually really proactive. So for example, when we're doing an open house, we either call the day before to blanket or we actually door knock and put flyers out. We also will reach out to clients in our database to send them, if your property, is a property that may fit their goals, we actually send those out. So we're very proactive in driving additional traffic to your house. And that's sort of just, the start of it. The other thing we do too is a lot of agents are using photos right now. Some are using drone or professional photography, but surprisingly not a lot of them. So if we were to explore joining forces, I like the phrase joining forces because it sort of speaks to collaboration. Bear with me, I'm getting one of those too much caffeine head spins right now. I usually only have 1 cup of fresh press. So if we were able to come up with a marketing plan that you felt was tried and true, but also involved a lot of proactive techniques, proven to sell homes just like yours, would you consider me for the job of getting you down to Florida, getting you to in West Palm where you have those, that love of golf that you have and you're in the communities that you like?
Of course. I mean, it's not going to cost me any more money, right?
Well, you know what? There's that old phrase, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And after all, Carol, when you go out to dinner, are you like most Americans? You tip 15 to 20%, regardless if the service is really good or really bad?
Mhm.
Well, I think you'll be happy to know that our commission is far less than 15 or 20%. And side note, if I was in person, I would go into my commission if I thought I was ready to make the close.
Mm.
If I was over the phone, I would say that's exactly why we want to get together. I'll explain not only those proactive marketing systems that we have, but why people have found so much value in our commissions. And on the commissions, in that case, when I use that tip analogy, people say, Brian, but that's an $80 to $100 dinner. And I'd be like, Carol, you're absolutely correct. If you're like most Americans, this is one of your largest assets. I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
6% seems like a hell of a deal. The other thing, talk with your TL, PC, or broker about. I started to use a variable rate commission a couple of years ago or a few years ago. I didn't like it. I didn't like it out of the gate, and I came to love it. And that was, if I listed your house and it was sold through an outside agency or outside agent of our team, it was 6 apples. If I sold it myself, it was 4 apples. If the seller procured the buyer, and this is the key part, it's got to be in your listing agreement. If there's no other firm or licensee involved and the seller procures the buyer, then it shall be blank number of apples. Now, a couple things. The reason why that language is so important. If Carol or if Linda, Bartol was a good friend of yours and she was represented by, Carrie Kellerman, and you mentioned your house to Linda, you'd be like, hey, I procured the buyer. But if she's going to buy our client with Carrie Kellerman, in MLS, we have an obligation to pay, KW Coastal that commission. And so that could be in a position where I'd have to honor the agreement with my seller and I'd have to pay KW Coastal, even though there's nothing left for me.
Hmm.
Now, the reason why I didn't like that is because, every now and then it's going to happen. But I came to the approach, it was what I call a red herring approach, that if that variable rate commission got me umpteen listings, and every now and then the seller procured the buyer, I was at peace with that. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you start with that, but I'm going to suggest first and foremost, talk to your TL, your PC, your broker about it, and make sure you get the language. And then when you're talking with them on the phone, use it for somebody maybe shop and discount. And I would talk about, hey, we have a variable rate commission. A lot of our seller clients loved it. Well, tell me the details. That's exactly why we should meet, Carol, because I wouldn't want you to misunderstand anything. And, and then use it to get the appointment. And if they drive hard 3 or 5 times to get details, just say, well, it could be as low as X, but again, certain things happen to apply. So let's get together.
Okay. Yeah.
How did you like that approach? That make you feel a little bit more comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, are you talking to me, Carol?
Yes.
Or
for your neighbors.
Yeah. So yeah, sure.
And side note, to anybody who's less than a year in the business, somebody says, why should I hire you? You're a brand new agent. Your best reply, again, the obstacle is the way. Ms. Marr, That's exactly why you should hire me. Because you're not going to find a more motivated agent in the blank area. Further and foremost, more when you partner with me, you partner with Keller Williams. And I have all the models and systems, technology, and access to resources that any experienced agent has. The difference is I'm just that much hungrier. So you can see the benefit of working with somebody with my experience. You might mention your TL, your PC, that they're there to help you, all that stuff. But if with humor, if I could burn anything into your skulls today, it would be that the obstacle is the path and C equals R. Communication or the conversation is the relationship. And side note, a lot of the books like Fierce Conversation, Never Split the Difference, well, if you leverage them, will have profound impact on your personal lives. Some people will challenge me, why do I want to use models and systems with my spouses, my family? I would argue this, who better deserves the best you have than the people you love and appreciate? With humor, after my father died, I had a very heated conversation with my sister. She said, you sound very filtered right now. And I said, yes, because I love you. And if I took the filter off, it wouldn't be good for either one of us. Any other objections, things that's costing you guys to get a little bit quiver when you go after a lead gen, an idea? Anybody? Because if you got no more objections, you're either with humor, BSing yourself, or you are a dragon slayer extraordinaire, ready for the combat of life to go out and get that life worth living that you want so bad.
Brian, we haven't.
Whoa. Look at little Jimi Hendrix going. Okay. Sam, what do you got? Let's try it one more time, and if not, chat and I'll watch quickly.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We have an agent here that is asking about a multifamily owner that doesn't want to sell due to the multifamily bringing strong cash flow. That's the objection.
So one is you may just have a roadblock and then you get another opportunity to see if they buy additional property.
Okay.
But I would try with this one. And Tiffany, your voice went from very deep and monotone to slightly more elevated. I'm going to guess we have different people. So let's role play this. Let's be that investor. So Mrs. Bennett, I can absolutely appreciate that, you know, and I wouldn't want you to kill your golden goose. Are you familiar with 1031 tax deferred exchanges?
Yes.
So if we were able to sit down and potentially explore properties that may allow you to defer your capital gains and increase your cash flow, would you have any objections to a 20-minute conversation?
No, I would love to hear about what you have to say about that.
Well, then let's do this. I'm going to, pause. I would probably take a little information from her about the number of units, areas that she likes, stuff like that. Then I'd close for the appointment. Great. Well, let me do this. I'll do some research. I'll pull up some properties that may be of interest. Plus, I'll share with you some ideas, how we help people find properties that are off market. And, what day would generally be better for you to meet? Wednesday at 5 or, give the second alternative and go. Now, Tiffany, the reason why I'd continue to go after that, worst case scenario, you strike that person in a positive way that you're serious, you're proactive, and you're motivated, that they may not sell that property, but they may be interested in buying additional properties for you.
Yeah,
that's also a great property to then talk about. Like another thing that I'm having done, I haven't realized I said this, I've got a team member who's trying to pull eviction lists from the courthouse, and we're going after, and this takes time, folks. This is not just, with humor, if you're looking for the one and done, you got a long life ahead of you. If you prepare to suffer for worthy endeavors, you're going to have a fulfilled life. But we're going to go after those eviction landlords because A, they may be tired and they're done and they want to sell. B is they may want to buy more property, so I feel like there's multiples to be had in eviction lists right now. And for the record, I was going to say it's politically incorrect. But Tiffany, hopefully that'll help. And the other thing I would do is go after, find out what that person wants. And I would consider calling commercial brokers, calling for rent ads, finding owners of big apartment buildings, and report back your efforts so they at least know how hard you're swinging the axe. Plus, you may find original pay dirt. Give you a quick example, and this is literally happened today. We've got a team member who I'm trying to find a way to buy a building with our team. Shout out to Nate Dickey from KW Coastal for giving me the idea on that. And I offered to pay our team members an incentive if they found a building. We found a building, a really, really nice guy whose tenant promised she was going to pay him, hasn't paid him in a year. Sheriff paid a visit 2-3 weeks ago. We were under contract to buy a property substantially under market because we fished upstream, had lake views in Burlington, very rare. I did the right thing. Mama raised me right, put an attorney review in there, made sure he understood, he could check his options, he could go to market. We were under contract. He used the attorney review to get out because he thought his tenant was going to pay him. And I was on the phone with him today during our break. Tenant hasn't paid him, court date's approaching. So that agent did a phenomenal job because she fished upstream, found an apartment owner who was under duress. And if we play this off right, we not only could help the team buy a building, but we could help a very kind soul get a good chunk of equity with which to start the next phase, and probably won't go to market because now he doesn't have the time to go to market. Any other thoughts, objections before I end? I want to save 3 minutes to have a very authentic story that's probably a little bit over the top. Any other objections come to mind? All right, let me close my door now that you're not going to get fouled. So another book, the first 40 minutes, you're probably going to roll your eyes at and think it's boring. Simon Sinek, Start with Why. Simon Sinek has 3 books that are amazing. Start with Why, Leaders Eat Last, which is the name implies, is a book about how leaders who put their organization first, i.e. Gary Keller putting agents first, how have some massive success. And then the third one is An Infinite Game. Now, the reason why The Infinite Game resonates with me is most of the amazing agents I've had the opportunity to partner with believe if they get a couple more deals, a couple more listings, if they go from 10 deals a year to 20 deals a year, life will be good. In reality, this is not a football game. We don't have 4 quarters, 3 periods in hockey. I don't know sports that well. This is an infinite game. So we have to wire ourselves to play an infinite game as opposed to falsely believing if I just get a weekend off, I'll charge my batteries. It's a whole mindset thing. And one of the things that resonates with me about the Start with Why is Simon Sinek then said, and he's not the first one to say it, if you have a powerful enough why, you can bear any how. And the other thing is, there's a lot of people that had a lot more success. I am delighted to be in, I don't have a college degree, got a little trouble after high school, yet I'm extremely learning based. More than anything, I hope to think I've helped people, including you, on their journey. But what drives me and why I do what I do is the old Greek proverb: a society grows great when older members of its community plant shade under which trees, or plant trees under which shade they know they will never sit. So I feel as I help real estate agents, as I apply what KW's taught me to other teams, and I create, help people think to better become a better version of themselves and create sustainable jobs, I will have a mark on a community and a state long after I go. And the great equalizers, we're all going to go. So when I was 23, I did my first future self. I sort of just wrote down what I thought I'd have to have for income, to live a good life. And basically engineered the amount of apartment units I would have to buy, assuming a certain years of ownership, a certain amount of profit from each apartment building. And I came up with, I think, about give or take 30 units. I largely accomplished that in the next 5 to 12 years because I used it to go out and drive me every day. I revisited that future self a couple times. Now, I've had a very blessed life. I've had the love of two amazing women who are outspoken and occasionally challenge me to high hell and back. But, and bear with me if I get a little meepy on this one. About just under 6 years ago, I came home. My wife was there with, my wife was born and raised in Long Island, a daughter of a Marine, lost her mother when she was 13. She was a tough ass, fill in the blank. And I got to think about her all the time. So she shared with me she'd been diagnosed with cancer. You know, what's the John Lennon saying? Life is what happens when you're busy making plans. It hit me, but it didn't catch me. I got on the phone afterwards and did a buyer-client consult over the phone with somebody that my SOI had sent me from California. Halfway through, the wheels started coming off the bus. Holy shit, I'm on this buyer-client and that's the news I got. What the hell am I doing? So over 6 months, I was blessed, not screwed, blessed. My wife lost her mom, 13, no conversations, no goodbye. That's hell. I had 6 months to take care of the woman that I love, change colostomy bags, give her shots, you know, all that. She passed in front of me with her son present and carried her body to the hearse that evening. Talk about it, mind blank, that was one of them. So clearly at that point in my life, I could have used that. I probably did eat a lot of, you know, Oreos and afterwards, but instead of going to drinking, I did smoke too much weed. I'll be up front with you on that. Within 2 weeks of her passing, I sat down and rewrote my future self. Now, if anybody's ever watched the movie 300, there's a scene at the end where a hero takes a spear and pushes it through his gut so he can get to his attacker that killed his son. When I rewrote that future self, I wailed. And I mean, I wailed because what I was writing was different than 2 weeks prior. It was a whole new world. I wrote down the relationship I was going to have with my stepson. I'm blessed. I have 3 stepkids, never had any kids of my own. I talked about my weight. I'm down 30 pounds and I've kept it off. My goal is 50. Not there, but I'm down 30 pounds. I wrote out my financial future. Life, money will not provide fulfillment, but the world spins a little bit easier with money in your pocket. I wrote how the property management company, the real estate team was doing. I talked about, you know, I'd live a life, you know, a life of joy and abundance every single day. And then for 3 months, actually, the second thing I did is after that, I went to a physical trainer. I said, how much for 3 times a week? Here's what happened to me. I don't want to talk about it. I want you to beat the shit out of me. So every day for 5 days a week for 3 months, I sat down and looked at that future self. I did a gratitude journal of 5 things I was grateful for, 5 things I wanted to manifest. And let me just check, make sure I'm not screwing up at 12 o'clock. Either way, it's going to happen. And sometimes the things I was grateful for was the only thing I could find was a warm cup of coffee in my hands. So I was able, so 5, 6 years later, the daughter that my first wife and I always used to joke about was running around the house in the form of a 10-year-old stepdaughter. She encouraged me to live, to grow another family. I have another stepson. I now have a grandson. I was so much more productive because I did a few things. I kept that future self in contact with me on a daily basis. Phenomenal book, Power of Habit. Very boring, but phenomenal. Trigger, routine, result. And so now I've developed with the gratitude exercise, I set it up so that if the moment I have an issue, a challenge, I immediately go to reframe it. What's the positive? What's the opportunity? It wasn't always easy to do. Now it's like second nature. The second thing is I leverage that why to that book also says, and this is a dumb moment, people who stay in contact with their future self are exponentially more likely to realize it. Duh. The problem is we get caught up in our day to day. I'm trying to put food on the table. I'm trying to do this, as opposed to that big goal that makes us want to bare our teeth at the demons that haunt us. But what that why did was it was so, and one of the things I put on there, I love snowboarding, that I go snowboarding often with my stepson. Keep in mind, I had a lot of challenges with my stepson. You know, we didn't always get along. Now we get along extremely well. But I put on there, Jackson and I have a better relationship than ever before. We go snowboarding and heliboarding often. Now, 5+ years later, I've heliboarded with him and, you know, Blackcomb Whistler. Getting out of a helicopter on a steep mountain with your son is an amazing experience. I have rich relationships with my friends, my family, with our team members. Catered Vermont has one of the highest retentions, say with the same thing. So encircling in this, and the reason why I share this very, you know, very authentic, real story is we're all in this last thing, and then I got to hang up, and I'm sure I'm screwing up at 12. One of the articles I read 2 weeks after, 3-4 weeks, maybe after she passed, was that we all must pay to play. And how we pay is we suffer. So we either suffer because we don't take risks in business, we play it safe, we don't make enough to afford us a great retirement. Or we suffer in business because we take this wild chance on this game called real estate. And we suffer through having to make phone calls that we don't want to make, having to ask people for orders that we're not really comfortable for doing it. We suffer in our personal lives because we stay in relationships that aren't right. Or we suffer in our personal lives because we give a loved one a second chance. So the question isn't if we're going to suffer. The question becomes, are we going to suffer for worthy items? So I hope you guys use that story to go out, write out your future self. If you're in a relationship, I encourage you, involve your spouse. And paint it out socially, spiritually. Again, I respect any creed. I hope I didn't offend you, but I spell God N-A-T-U-R-E. What does your vacation look like? What does your social life look like? Spell it out so that it makes you smile, so that it makes you again want to bare your teeth at the demons in front of you. Post it where you get ready in the morning. Post it where you lead generate. And when you're having your darkest of moments, go back to it because it will provide you fuel. Any thoughts, questions? Brian, go pound sand before we part for the day. And I wish you well on your journey to get out there and slay some dragons. So it was either too much authenticity for you, or maybe I even stirred a little bit of tears, hopefully.
Brian, thank you so much for sharing. I am always so touched and inspired by all the posts that you make about your past wife and your current wife, and you are just so full of love and giving and caring for people that it's always wonderful to hear and see. So thank you.
Great to see you, my friend. I missed you, and I hope all is well. Any other thoughts, ahas, or anything you guys think you're going to do different as a result today?
Just going to add more stuff to the game.
Yeah. And remember the last thought, and I'm running late, I realize I get a coaching person. We live in a dichotomy. Play all in, bust your ass wide open, take time out, be with your family. You know, find peace between the dichotomy. Also know if you set a goal to lead gen today for 2 hours and you barely got a half an hour in, feel a little pain, but don't beat yourself up too much. Just try to do 40 minutes tomorrow. Be kind to yourself. Brooke really touched me with, you know, get 1 degree better every day. So first and foremost, guys, thank you very much to hopefully give back. I really appreciate the involvement, the contributions. Do your future self. Make sure it's so amazing that you can survive anyhow to get there. Get out there and get some. Be prepared to fail. Be prepared to screw up. Laugh at yourself, but get out and check your E to E ratio. How much education? How much entertainment? And I'm telling you, get on Audible and listen to that shit in your car. Sorry, I swore. Thank you, guys. Have a damn good day, and appreciate you all.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Brian.
Brian.
Do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.